This guy just fell from the sky, and somehow he landed right on the back of a three-headed wolf, enraging its mother. Realizing the danger, the young man ran for his life, but not without turning back to curse. Damn you, I just accidentally transmigrated and landed in your wolf den, giving you a little scare. Did you really have to hold such a grudge? His name is Lu Fang, and the moment he transmigrated, he was unlucky enough to be hunted by a three-headed wolf. Facing their ferocious storm-like attacks, he felt that just running wasn't going to work. But he wasn't ready to die so meaninglessly right after arriving in this new world. Too busy running to watch his step, Lu Fang tripped and fell, his fair face scraping hard against the ground, nearly ruining his good looks. Meanwhile, the wolf stopped in its tracks. Then all three of its heads tilted back, letting out a piercing howl. The next second, a giant energy ball formed in the wolf's mouth, flying straight towards the unlucky young man. He was so scared he almost pooped his pants. Without a second thought, he scrambled to his feet and ran. Just then, a set of incantations suddenly flashed through Lu Fang's mind. The Huaxia internal arts are endlessly wondrous. Step like a whirlwind, strike like a rainbow. Triple the power, triple the speed. He immediately recognized this as the incantation for the Huaxia internal arts he had practiced since he was a child. He remembered its name was Swift Wind Steps, but he had no idea why it suddenly appeared in his subconscious. Right after a surge of power erupted from within his body, Lu Fang had no time to think. He had to take a gamble. Acting on instinct, he successfully activated that power and vanished just before the wolf's attack could hit him. When he reappeared, he was in a different location. It was the power of the Swift Wind Steps that had helped him escape the relentless pursuit of his enemy. Lu Fang panted heavily, feeling both lucky and confused. The Huaxia internal arts, he practiced since childhood, had never worked before. Why did they suddenly become so powerful after he transmigrated here? But before the unlucky guy could even catch his breath, he suddenly saw a dark shadow fall over him. This feeling was all too familiar, almost exactly like before. The only difference was that this time he'd provoked a one-headed monster instead of a three-headed one. But the thing standing behind him now looked even more terrifying than the three-headed wolf from earlier. Just one roar from it was enough to make the young man tremble uncontrollably. With all his will to survive, he had to run and run again. If they could communicate, he would have groveled and begged the monster to spare him. But since that wasn't an option, all he could do was run for his life. Unfortunately, this time, he couldn't activate the Swift Wind Steps, and had to rely on his own strength. Then Lu Fang ran through a bush and fell off a cliff. Coincidentally, right where he was about to land, there was a girl. Although he shouted for her to get out of the way, his falling speed was much faster than her reaction time. As a result, Lu Fang landed headfirst, crushing the girl beneath him in an incredibly awkward position. Her figure was enough to give him a nosebleed. As for the girl, the close contact with a strange man left her flustered and embarrassed. The result was a sharp slap across Lu Fang's face, accompanied by a crisp curse. Pervert. She was about to hit him again, but the terrifying monster had already caught up. Seeing it leap down menacingly, Lu Fang didn't think twice and pushed the girl away, not wanting her to get involved because of him. But because of that, he was hit by the monster. As its massive claws raked across his back, Lu Fang's vision blurred. He had transmigrated here with his entire body. He wondered if he could transmigrate back to Earth if he got eaten. Fortunately, Lu Fang wasn't eaten by the monster because a third person appeared and struck it with a powerful slash from a greatsword. The girl Lu Fang had just pushed away ran over, happily calling out, "Grandpa Vini, are you all right?" the old man asked in return. "Hee, I'm so clever, of course nothing would happen to me. But I think there was someone else here just now," Vini replied. Only then did she notice Lu Fang lying flat on the ground, covered in blood in a very bad state. Her grandfather said he would finish off the Black Panther, leaving Lu Fang in her care. But Vini was flustered and didn't know what to do other than help him up, anxiously calling out to him. "Hey, are you okay? Can you open your eyes?" Lu Fang was half conscious, but he could still feel his cheek pressed against the girl's soft chest and couldn't help but grin. "It hurts. Like hell. But to be protecting a cute girl like you, it's worth it," he replied. After saying those words, Lu Fang quickly lost consciousness. In his daze, he felt his body become weightless, floating amidst countless specks of light. And then, Lu Fang saw memories from his childhood. Back then, when he first started practicing the Huaxia internal arts, other kids mocked him, saying he'd read too many wuxia novels and gone crazy. A little older, Lu Fang saw himself being brutally rejected by a girl. The beautiful rose he gave her was thrown right back in his face. The thorns scratched his skin, and he had to endure her harsh, insulting words. Just like that, Lu Fang had no friends and no girlfriend. He started immersing himself in online games. After all, only online could he find people to talk to. At the internet, cafe kids would whisper about Lu Fang, calling him the god who had lived in the game room for a whole month. To put it bluntly, he was a loser who could only hide here like a waste of space. These whispers eventually reached Lu Fang's ears. In truth, he also realized he was living a pathetic life. Then Lu Fang heard someone calling his name and shaking him awake. "Hey, you lazy worm, wake up. If you don't get up, I'm gonna get rough." "You lazy bum, are you going to get up or not?" Lu Fang recognized the voice of a girl, both familiar and strange. He slowly opened his eyes dazedly, seeing a person standing before him. Not fully awake, Lu Fang unconsciously reached out and pulled the person towards him as if grabbing a life-saving straw. And his action caused the girl to lose her balance, ending up right on top of him. The two of them stared at each other once again in this embarrassing position. This time, Lu Fang was the one who blushed crimson. He quickly pushed Vinhe off, apologized, and explained that he'd just had a nightmare about his past, and was a bit agitated. Before their blushes could fade, they heard a loud shout. "Lu Fang, you little brat, get your butt down here and work." Hearing that, Vinhe anxiously pushed Lu Fang off the bed. "Oh no, Grandpa's really getting angry. Hurry up, get ready and come down. I even bought new clothes for you. Go wash your face." Lu Fang kept saying, "Okay, okay." He then hurried out of bed. Time flew by like a dog running through a field. In the blink of an eye, he had been in this world for half a month, but he still couldn't get used to the pace of life here. It made sense. Lu Fong was just a game-addicted kid from an internet cafe who by some rotten luck got caught in an electrical short that blew up his computer, becoming a member of the Transmigrated Male Protagonist Association. He had transmigrated to this Yalon continent. As everyone saw the moment he arrived, he was chased by a magical beast. Luckily, he was saved by Vini and Cap Kak, who even took him home. In this half a month, Lu Fong had learned a little about the new world he was living in. On the Yalan continent, anyone could cultivate duchi and magic. People were divided into 11 levels based on their strength. From level 9 onwards, one could be called a grandmaster, level 10 was saint level, and the highest was supreme. Legend says there are even higher levels, but no one has ever reached them. Most humans here were between level 3 and level 4, and Grandpa Cap Kak was already a level 5 great swordsman. Vini was even more impressive, a saint-born, meaning a student with the talent to potentially reach saint level within 40 years, directly admitted into the academy of one of the 4 saints. As for Lu Fong, in his old world, he was just a nobody obsessed with pursuing the Huaxia internal arts since childhood. It was something that sounded like a scam, yet as a kid he truly believed it was a divine art, training arduously with no results. But as if fate pitied him when Lu Fong died on Earth and transmigrated, he was suddenly able to use those internal arts. However, the Huaxia internal arts were completely different from the powers of this world. This made Lu Fong doubt whether he could continue to use it for cultivation. The life he had on Earth was too painful. So after transmigrating to this world, Lu Fong had no regrets at all. Besides, he now had a new person to care about here. Just as he thought of this, Lu Fong's new concern appeared. Vini, looking impatient, shoved a new set of clothes into his hands. Hey, what are you daydreaming about? Hurry up and change into your new clothes. After Lu Fong changed, she couldn't stop admiring him. Wow, you look so handsome in this outfit. Even someone like you looks pretty sharp wearing it. Are you complimenting me or dissing me? Lu Fong asked grumpily, but was only met with her giggles. Seeing him struggle with the buttons, Vini personally helped him adjust his clothes. Though she kept muttering that Lu Fong was an idiot, her actions were incredibly gentle. Seeing how beautiful, kind, and good she was to him, how could someone like him who had lacked affection since childhood not be moved? Vini and Grandpa Cap Kak's home was a tavern, and it was always bustling with customers. Today was like any other day. As soon as morning came, they went down to the first floor to help Cap Kak out. Vini was in charge of serving dishes, while Lu Fong cleared the cups and plates from customers who had finished eating and drinking. Seeing him carry a large stack of cups each time, Vini was extremely worried. Be careful, don't carry so many glasses at once. What if you fall? It's too crowded. If I don't get these dirty glasses out of here quickly, Grandpa will kill me, Lu Fong replied with a smile. From a distance, Cap Kak watched the two of them, noticing the somewhat affectionate atmosphere. His eyebrows furrowed and he muttered a curse. That rotten little brat. Long after the customers had left, Lu Fong finished cleaning up. He couldn't help but stretch his back. With this frequency and workload, Lu Fong feared he'd get a herniated disc before he ever became a master cultivator. Vini came out from inside and flicked him hard on the forehead, then scolded him. Are you an idiot? Why did you carry so many cups and plates at once? Weren't you afraid you'd trip and end up with a pig's head? Ow, that hurt, Lu Fong said, rubbing his forehead. I just thought that carrying them all at once would save time, you know. Your wound from the magical beast has barely healed, and you're already being careless with your health again. How can you be so stupid, Vini? Said huffily, then brought up the past. You were just as foolish back in the forest. You didn't even know me, but you still saved me. Weren't you afraid of dying? Back then I just wanted to save someone, I didn't think that much. Besides, compared to me, your life is definitely more important, Lu Fong replied, rubbing his nose. After all, a person like me has always been alone. My life is cheap. Even if I died, nobody would care. His words sounded so tragic, but Vini was so angry her face turned red. She shouted again, You're not allowed to say that I would care. From today on I am your family. Vini declared firmly. Those words might be easy to say, but for Lu Fong, who heard them, it was anything but simple. It was the first time in his long life that he had a family. The feeling was truly joyful, so happy he felt like he could fly. Lu Fong couldn't hide his smile. Okay, thank you. But their happy atmosphere didn't last long, before it was interrupted by a short man, who at a glance was clearly a noble. He rudely pointed at Lu Fong and shouted, Hey, where did you crawl out from, you little brat? If you know what's good for you, stay away from my fiancé Vini. Lu Fong felt as if he'd been slapped hard across the face. He anxiously turned to the person beside him. Hey Vini, he said, you're his fiancé. Is that true? Vini immediately denied it, then told Lu Fong to go back inside and let her handle this. However, that shorty didn't want to let things go so easily. Before Lu Fong could leave, he spoke up provocatively. Vini, who is this? A new handyman Grandpa Cap Kak hired. You are an outstanding saint-born, personally recognized by Headmaster Lamdick of the Blue Star Academy. Don't associate with this kind of person. It will tarnish your status. He is a guest of my house. It's none of your business. I'll say it again, Lei Nuo. I will not be engaged to you. Vini shouted, looking extremely frustrated. It seemed this wasn't the first time this Lei Nuo had come to bother her. It seemed that with Lu Fong present, Vini's public rejection carried an even greater sting. Lei Nuo was furious, but his subordinates quickly tried to calm him down. Young master, don't get angry. Remember what the Lord said. So Lei Nuo had to swallow his anger, force a smile, and continue. Vini, don't be mad. I'm just worried you'll be deceived by this person of unknown origin. But speaking of the engagement, why do you keep refusing? After all, the lord of this city is my father. The moment he said this, Lu Fong was the one who was shocked. He never expected the shorty in front of him to be the city lord's son, a person of illustrious status, a complete opposite to an orphan like himself. But Vini seemed used to his showing off and paid him no mind. She pulled Lu Fong, wanting to take him inside. Seeing this, Lei Nuo continued. Vini, don't forget, if you marry me, you'll have my father's support. You'll have resources when you go to study at Blue Star Academy. Blue Star Academy is full of elites, all from noble families. An ordinary person like you can't compare. You don't want to be forced to become a poor beggar in front of those rich kids, do you? Lei Nuo's words were harsh, but they were all true. Vini was too angry to speak, and this time Lu Feng's sharp tongue had to step in. He stood in front of Vini and boldly cursed the other guy. A despicable villain like you dares to use your power to force Vini to marry you. You're just trying to humiliate her. This time, Lei Nuo's subordinates drew their swords, reasoning that Lu Feng wasn't even worthy of their arguing. This reaction pleased Lei Nuo greatly. He even carefully instructed them not to kill Lu Feng too quickly, because he wanted him to know the price of opposing him. Then under the shorty's command, the knights all charged forward at once. Seeing himself so outnumbered, Lu Feng had no intention of fighting them head-on from the start. Instead, he grabbed Vini's hand tightly, then used his swift wind steps to get her out of the knights' encirclement. In a flash, he appeared in front of Lei Nuo and provoked him. You think you can deal with me with just these guys, a young master like you who only knows how to bully others with your power? Do you have any other skills besides having a lot of lackeys? You stupid, worthless scum. Enraged, Lei Nuo raised the sword in his hand, wanting to defeat Lu Feng himself. At that moment, he let go of Vini's hand and charged towards his opponent like a flash. Lu Feng used the swift wind steps flexibly. In an instant, he went from standing in front of the shorty to appearing behind him. What's wrong? Did I hit a nerve making you angry out of shame? Lu Feng continued to provoke him, and Lei Nuo became even more furious. While dodging Lei Nuo's attacks, he mocked his swordsmanship as being too poor, saying he probably couldn't even touch a single hair on his head. After feeling he had provoked his opponent enough, Lu Feng suddenly turned to counterattack. His punch was so fast that Lei Nuo's knights could only watch helplessly. It didn't stop there. After dealing with the shorty, Lu Feng turned to settle the score with his subordinates. Compared to their useless young master, this group was quite skilled, but even with their swords, they couldn't avoid being knocked down one by Lu Feng left lying all over the ground. Even after wiping out all his opponents, Lu Feng still found it hard to believe. The swift wind steps were truly powerful. Tripling both strength and speed was no joke. Immediately after, he felt a surge of power rising within his body. There was no mistaking this feeling. It was the internal energy of the Huaxia internal arts. Having internal energy meant that he had officially entered the first stage of this cultivation method. Indeed, real combat was the fastest way to become stronger. Lu Feng just didn't know what level of power he was at on the Yelan continent now. Not bad, Lu Feng. I didn't realize you were so strong. At this moment, Vini walked over, praising him with admiration. Hey, Lu Feng laughed shyly in response. I think I might have gone a little overboard. Lei Nuo's father is the city lord. He won't come to cause trouble for us, will he? Vini didn't look scared at all. Besides, Lei Nuo and his gang were the ones who came looking for trouble first. She said that if his father dared to come and bother her, she would dare to tell Headmaster Lam Ditch. Hearing Vini say this, Lu Feng felt relieved, then grabbed her hand and made a run for it. Otherwise, if Cap Kak saw so many unconscious people piled up in front of the tavern, he would get angry again. The moment he held her hand and pulled her away, a strange feeling blossomed in Vini's heart. Lu Feng clearly had neither Du Qi nor magic, yet he gave her such a strong sense of security. However, Vini also sensed something unusual just now. Lu Feng didn't cultivate Du Qi, and had no magic, yet he could move so freely under the blades of a group of level 4 and above fighters, not to mention knocking them all back. Just that instantaneous movement technique alone was not normal at all. This raised a question in Vini's mind: who exactly was Lu Feng? But in any case, she could feel that Lu Feng had no ill intentions towards her, so his identity wasn't really that important. Just then, an idea popped into Vini's head. She squeezed Lu Feng's hand and said, "Let's go to the street market. I heard there's a lot of new stuff there today." "As you command, my lady Vini." On the way, Vini noticed Lu Feng smiling non-stop, and asked curiously, "Lu Feng, why do you look so happy today?" Lu Feng kept smiling but didn't plan to tell her he was happy because he had successfully mastered how to use the new internal energy from the Huaxia internal arts. After all, even if he told her, Vini probably wouldn't understand. She just needed to know that from now on Lu Feng could protect her better. When he said this, Lu Feng, whether intentionally or not, leaned closer to Vini. The distance was too close, making the young lady blush crimson. In the end, Lu Feng got another slap across the face. Even though he was hit by a beautiful girl, Lu Feng's spirits were still high. After all, mastering the use of internal energy, a stepping stone for his power development, was definitely something to celebrate. But after returning from the market, Lu Feng rushed back to the tavern, threw open the main door and shouted, "Grandpa Cap Kak, we're back." But the scene inside the tavern froze him in place. Cap Kak was covered in wounds, his face smeared with blood. More importantly, he was being held up by the throat by another man. The tavern was littered with dead bodies and broken weapons. A single glance was enough to tell that a fierce battle had just taken place here. Vini ran in right after Lu Feng, and upon seeing the scene she trembled uncontrollably. Cap Kak saw her and croaked weakly, "Run." Because that man was Lei Din, Lei Nuo's father, and the lord of Mathan City. "Vini, it's been a while, hasn't it?" Lei Din looked towards the entrance, a provocative smile on his face. Just then Lei Nuo peeked out from behind him and pointed aggressively at Lu Feng. "Father, it's him. He's the one who humiliated me, and said our family is nothing but trash and that he should be the next city lord." This shorty was really good at exaggerating and making things worse. But in truth, Lu Feng had indeed offended him, so it wasn't surprising that Lei Nuo and his father came for revenge. He just couldn't stomach that Lei Nuo, a man, would shamelessly make up such stories. "You dare to humiliate my people. You will not leave here in one piece," Lei Nuo said through gritted teeth. Lu Fang didn't have time to think. While shouting for Lei Din to release Cap Kak, his hand had already formed a fist and he was charging forward. Seeing this, Lei Nuo quickly hid behind his father. Lei Din had never seen Lu Fang's moves before, but to him this speed was still too slow. Lei Din casually raised a single finger and tapped it right between Lu Fang's eyes. He was shocked, confused, then panicked. Why? How was his instantaneous swift wind steps seen through? It worked perfectly when he used it against Lei Nuo's knights just now, didn't it? Could this Lei Din really be that powerful? His right hand still held Cap Kak tightly by the neck, yet he could effortlessly send Lu Fang flying with just the index finger of his left hand. He was immediately buried alive under a pile of rubble. Seeing this, Vini was so angry, she gritted her teeth. She swore she would report the crimes of the Lei father and son to her teacher. However, after hearing this, Lei Din just let out a mocking laugh. What a pity. I'm afraid you won't get the chance to see your teacher again. Originally, I thought of using you to establish a relationship with one of the four saints, but since you're so ignorant, I might as well take your little life. After all, the dead can't tell tales. Lei Din's next target was Vini. Even from a distance, he could attack her ferociously. Vini was bound by Lei Din's power, lifted high into the air. Her throat was squeezed tight, making it impossible to breathe, let alone chant a spell to fight back. Witnessing both Cap Kak and Vini being brutally beaten like this, how could Lu Fang endure it? So despite his body being wrecked from the last attack, he charged straight towards Lei Din. Bastard, stop it. After Lu Fang's shout, the scoundrel actually did stop. He threw Cap Kak in his hand towards him. Lu Fang caught the old man, but before he could react, a sword suddenly appeared in Lei Din's hand. His face now wore a horrifyingly fake smile. Then Lei Din waved his hand, and the sword shot forward. Kid, let me go, Cap Kak yelled. The next moment, Lu Fang felt a hot liquid spray onto his face. It was the blood of the old man who had taken him in when he first arrived in this world. Lei Din's blade had pierced through Cap Kak's chest. His eyes rolled back, his whole body trembling. You didn't need to guess to know he was in immense pain. Yet Cap Kak still tried to stand up. Go, I'll try to hold him back. You take Vini and run, you're no match for him, he said, then turned his back to Lu Fang to face Lei Din, the sword still embedded in his chest. In Lei Din's eyes, Cap Kak's dying struggle was just an even bigger eyesore. Lu Fang stared tensely at his hand only to see Lei Din's fingers suddenly clench, as if squeezing his own heart. Fresh blood sprayed out again, this time soaking the ground. Cap Kak's large body was torn into pieces by Lei Din's sword. Lu Fang was so close he witnessed this horrific scene with his own eyes wide open without blinking even once. And Vini, though, a bit further away, still had to watch her grandfather's life being ended by Lei Din. No, she screamed. With extreme hatred and grief, Vini began to float into the air, breaking free from Lei Din's control. However, it was just a momentary shock. Lei Din's face showed no sign of losing composure, indicating the situation was still within his control, as expected of a saint born. But that's all you've got. With that, Lei Din increased his power, once again choking Vini and making her lose control. Meanwhile, Lu Fang tried to sneak attack him from behind, but the shorty Lei Nuo saw him and warned his father. And so once again Lu Fang was sent flying by Lei Din. His whole body slammed into a wall, and then he was bound hand and foot by him. Lei Din snorted coldly. Fine, but don't be in such a hurry to reincarnate. You still have to watch the grand finale. With that, Lei Din turned to his son and continued, Lei Nuo, haven't you always wanted her? Only a fool wouldn't understand the meaning behind those words. Furthermore, upon hearing this, Lei Nuo's face flushed, his eyes lit up, and he looked at Vini like a hungry wolf eyeing a piece of raw meat. Lei Din then lowered her to the ground right in front of his son. All right, now she's all yours. Lei Nuo was so excited he couldn't stop clapping, his lust impossible to hide. Lu Fang was beyond furious. He roared, Lei Nuo, if you dare touch Vini, I will turn you to dust. If this were the Lu Fang from a few hours ago who single-handedly wiped out a squad of knights, maybe Lei Nuo would be scared. But now he was bound hand and foot by his father, unable to move. How could his words possibly threaten his opponent? Lei Nuo approached, pinning down Vini, who was biting her lip and crying silently beneath him. He then shot a provocative look at Lu Fang. You useless piece of trash, what good is yelling and cursing? If you've got the guts, come and stop me. Vini was completely powerless to resist. Though she used all her strength, the shorty began to rip her clothes off violently. Haha, don't pretend to be so pure. You think just because you're a saint born I can't have you. Bastard, don't touch me. Get lost, Vini screamed. Lu Fang's anger reached its peak, and he actually managed to break free from Lei Din's restraints. However, just as he charged forward, his finger rose again. It was the same move, a tap to the center of his forehead carrying an immense suppressive force. A little impressive but still too weak, Lei Din declared. See, so what if she has the talent of a saint born? Before she becomes a true saint, she's just a piece of meat for ants to tear apart. As for the teacher Vini wanted to tattle to earlier, I'll just say some brat of unknown origin came to harm her, then I'll hand your head over to him. Sound reasonable? Lei Din shed with a smile, and Lu Fang finally understood why Lei Nuo could be so shameless and despicable. This personality was completely inherited from his father. He was too angry to speak. And now it seemed Lei Din had truly developed killing intent towards him. But just as Lei Din was about to kill Lu Fang, he heard his son's blood-curdling scream. When he turned around, he saw Lei Nuo had been thrown aside by Vini, lying motionless on the ground. Vini was now standing, and in front of her was a crystal emitting a dazzling blue light. Her face was covered in tears, her expression one of utter despair and anguish. Lu Fang, don't worry. Vini reassured him through her tears. Lei Din quickly let go of Lu Fang because he realized something more serious was happening. Vini is about to self-destruct, stop her, he shouted, but who was going to stop Vini, his useless son? Lei Nuo didn't have that ability, so it was still up to Lei Din to rush towards her. But by now it seemed Vini's self-destruction process had already begun. Her whole body curled up like a fetus in the womb, surrounded by a blindingly bright aura. Lu Fang didn't know exactly what would happen next, only that it definitely wasn't anything good. He reached out wanting to grab Vini, but he couldn't. He kept calling her name. Lu Fang. I was really happy to have met you. Please live on. Vini gave a desperate smile and told him this. Lu Fang screamed her name and rushed forward, but he only managed to grab a single hair tie of hers. With a loud bang, a massive explosion erupted. Lei Din had managed to grab Lei Nuo in time. The father and son were safely protected within a sturdy barrier, while the tavern was reduced to a desolate pile of rubble by the blast. When Lu Fang came to his senses, he found himself in the middle of a forest clutching Vini's hair tie. It seemed his survival instinct had helped him activate the swift wind steps and escape the explosion. Lu Fang clutched the hair tie tightly in his hand as tears streamed down his face. Vini and Cap Cac were the ones who saved him and gave him a place to stay when he arrived here. But today they were both gone. Along with his extreme sorrow and boundless hatred grew in Lu Fang's heart. He swore that he would dice the Lei father and son into 1,000 pieces to avenge Cap Cac and Vini. Lu Fang only knew he was in a forest, but not where exactly. He wanted to go back for revenge immediately, but as he turned, the ground suddenly shook. A fireball fell from the sky, incinerating a large patch of grass to ash. Lu Fang looked up and saw a massive black dragon being pursued by several men. They were attacking it together, but the dragon's power was also terrifying. After knocking down a man in a red cloak, the dragon suddenly stared intently at Lu Fang. At first it thought he was an ambush, so it was about to crush him in one move. However, as it got closer, the black dragon sensed something wasn't right. From Lu Fang's scent, the black dragon realized he was from Earth, so it immediately stopped its attack. Not only that, the dragon turned back to protect Lu Fang from the attacks of the other men. It ended up being hit by a golden arrow, with immense piercing power bleeding profusely. That was an arrow shot from a dragon-slaying bow with incredibly high damage. Lu Fang was drenched in the dragon's blood, but he didn't care about that. Instead, Lu Fang just wondered why this black dragon would save him. The black dragon probably wanted to explain, but it was currently under constant attack from the group, so it had no free moment. Now that they saw Lu Fang with the dragon, they immediately branded them as allies, and launched an attack on both, aiming to steal the dragon egg. Dozens of people charged forward at once, each possessing a different skill, creating a dazzling and overwhelming effect. Despite facing such incredible firepower, the dragon stubbornly spread its wings, protecting Lu Fang, completely not letting him get even a single scratch. Lu Fang grew more and more astonished, especially seeing the ferocious power of the attackers. He couldn't fathom why the black dragon would want to protect him. Then Lu Fang suddenly heard the dragon speak. "Kid, listen to me. I'll hold them off. You go on ahead." These words stunned Lu Fang as they reminded him of Cap Cac before his death. Lu Fang's mind exploded with a single persistent question. Why was he always the one being protected? Why did people have to sacrifice their lives to protect him? So as the group prepared to attack again, and the black dragon readied itself for battle, something inside Lu Fang snapped. It seemed to be the thread of his sanity. Lu Fang let out a tremendous scream. No, his scream was like the desperate roar of a cornered beast. Then Lu Fang's entire body suddenly shot into the air, along with a terrifying surge of power that blasted towards the heavens. At this moment he seemed to have completely lost his mind. His eyes were blank, white, and blood vessels bulged on his face and neck. The dragon's blood entered his body, his meridians opened on their own, his energy became vast as the sea, and his body grew resilient, becoming unbreakable. Even the black dragon was utterly shocked by this sight, and before it could even react, Lu Fang charged straight at the people who were attacking it. "You bastards, prepare to die." Seeing Lu Fang so battle-crazed, the group wasn't the least bit scared. They simply felt his fighting style was chaotic, concluding he was nothing more than trash. Suddenly, a girl, wielding a large axe, rushed out to intercept him. "Don't be a fool and get in our way, kid." As she spoke, she swung the axe in her hand down. Lu Fang instinctively raised his hand to block. The moment his hand met the opponent's weapon, a massive explosion erupted, sending them both flying backward. Lu Fang fell towards the black dragon, which carefully shielded him with its wing. Then the dragon said, "Don't be rash. They're all level 7 masters and they're holding holy weapons." At the same time, the girl who had just attacked Lu Fang was also in complete shock. How could she not be? A useless-looking kid had just blocked one of her attacks. It didn't stop there. Lu Fang suddenly shot back up, rushing to attack again. He was so fast that the black dragon couldn't even stop him. But the girl with the axe had clearly seen him charging from the front. Yet somehow, like a ghost, Lu Fang had abruptly appeared behind her. If not for another enemy jumping in to interfere, the girl would have definitely been hit by Lu Fang's attack. He was knocked back once more, but thankfully he wasn't injured. The man with a large hammer who had just intervened seemed furious. He snarled, "What an arrogant brat who doesn't know his place, die." Then the man seemed to use his full power to unleash a fire-based attack. This move was likely incredibly powerful, proven by the fact that even the black dragon panicked, shouting aloud, "Be careful." With the support of holy weapons, the strength of this group could rival that of a saint-level master. The black dragon didn't know what had just happened to Lu Fang, but it was certain he was still no match for these people. Hearing the dragon say that Lu Fang was stunned. The power of this group combined with holy weapons was equivalent to a true saint-level master, but after 2 clashes he could easily tell they weren't even as strong as Lei Din. If this was saint-level, then just how powerful was that bastard? Just then, another critical problem arose. Lu Fang suddenly coughed up a large mouthful of blood, and his body instantly lost most of its strength. It was because his internal energy had been completely depleted, and the effects of the diamond body had worn off. He quickly collapsed to the ground, much to the black dragon's alarm. Moreover, Lu Fang's sudden collapse distracted the dragon. And in that very moment, the group launched a sneak attack, inflicting a massive wound on its chest. Seizing the opportunity, the group began to coordinate their attacks to restrict the black dragon's movement. The situation was getting worse and worse. The dragon realized this as well, and stopped trying to fight. It immediately spread its wings, grabbed Lu Fang with its claws, and soared into the sky. Of course, the group that came for the dragon egg wouldn't let the black dragon escape so easily, so they attacked relentlessly from all sides. The black dragon was pierced in the chest by a longsword, writhing in pain, but by then it had successfully activated its spatial magic. After flying into the magic circle, both the dragon and Lu Fang vanished without a trace. Damn it, they escaped. The group gnashed their teeth in frustration. What's there to panic about? It took my holy weapon, and even I'm not panicking, said the man who had just stabbed the black dragon with his longsword. Don't worry, they won't get away. My tracking magic has already locked onto them. This time it was the purple-haired girl with the giant axe who spoke. When Lu Fang woke up, his head was pounding, and his surroundings were pitch black. It seemed he was in a cave. Then Lu Fang heard a voice right next to him. You woke up pretty fast. Lu Fang jumped, and when he turned his head he saw a very handsome white-haired man with a longsword pierced through his chest. Before Lu Fang could ask, the man introduced himself first. I am a Dak, the one who saved your life. Hearing him introduce himself as his savior, and seeing the familiar-looking sword, Lu Fang realized a Dak was the black dragon from before. He immediately grew anxious, moving a little closer to him, constantly examining the wound on a Dak's chest. Thank you for saving my life, but with this sword stuck in so deep, doesn't it hurt? Do you want me to help you pull it out? The moment Lu Fang touched the sword, a Dak yelled at him, causing him to freeze. Stop. This sword can't be pulled out, or I'll bleed to death. That's common knowledge. Are you trying to send me to an early grave? Lu Fang was so scared he immediately took 2 steps back, becoming even more frantic. He kept apologizing profusely, only to see a Dak burst out laughing. Alright, I was just teasing you. With that, he grabbed the blade and decisively pulled it out. After removing the sword, he only coughed up a bit of blood, and there was no massive bleeding like he had just claimed. A Dak's condition didn't seem too dire, but Lu Fang was still very worried. Only when a Dak said the wound would take a month to heal could he relax a little. He also said that this cave was his base, and the group wouldn't be able to find it, so Lu Fang could rest easy. But how could Lu Fang relax after going through such a life or death situation? Who were those people, and why did they want to attack you? He asked. A Dak explained that they were people from the 4 great empires and mercenary legions here to steal his dragon egg. At this point, a Dak started rummaging through a pile of junk next to him to find the dragon egg to show Lu Fang. Lu Fang was speechless. Who in the world would hide their child in a pile of junk? Here it is. After some digging, a Dak pulled out a large glossy-shelled egg. Lu Fang was skeptical. This thing was a dragon egg. From the looks of it, it just seemed like an oversized chicken egg. But a Dak firmly insisted that this was his precious daughter. Seeing this, Lu Fang became even more curious. How do you know it's a girl? Hasn't it hatched yet? What's so good about it being a stinky brat? It will definitely be a girl. Besides, I laid this egg myself, so of course I'd know. Lu Fang stared at him. From the looks of it, wasn't a Dak a man? How could he possibly lay an egg? So he began to recount the story, which started half a year ago. When a Dak had just woken up, he found he had turned into a black dragon. At that time, something was stuck in his throat, and then he spat out this egg. This egg came out of my mouth, so it's my daughter. Doesn't matter where an egg comes from, right? Lu Fang was truly at a loss for words. A Dak's words sounded reasonable, but everything about it felt strange. He then pushed the egg into Lu Fang's arms, saying that just holding it would make him feel less scared. You've already crossed worlds, and you still dare to run around a different realm like this. You've got some guts. This place isn't Earth after all, a Dak added. Hearing the word Earth, Lu Fang's eyes immediately lit up. Then he learned an even more sensational piece of information. From a Dak, he was also a transmigrator from Earth. It happened half a year ago after he woke up and turned into a black dragon. Just as they were talking, a sharp pain shot through a Dak's chest so intense that he couldn't stand up straight. Seeing this, Lu Fang started to get anxious again. How's your injury? Can you hold on? I probably won't kick the bucket. After all, I'm a dragon. Don't web novels always say that dragons are the most resilient species? Lu Fang kept rubbing his forehead. Even though a Dak was injured this badly, he was still in the mood to joke. But aside from the chest pain tormenting him, a Dak did seem to be doing okay. Looking at you, you must have a lot of questions for me, right? For example, why am I a member of the dragon clan being attacked by humans? Seeing Lu Fang remain silent, a Dak took the initiative to speak. Lu Fang nodded slightly. Because according to the information he'd gathered since arriving, there were less than 100 dragons in this world, so they were very united. Why would the people of the 4 great empires dare to team up to steal a dragon egg? Weren't they afraid of the entire dragon clan seeking revenge? A Dak gave a bitter smile. The dragon clan is indeed very united, but many years ago a black dragon stole the dragon god's egg and was exiled, so we are no longer protected by the dragon clan. Therefore, humans who have always coveted the power of dragons but dared not act, have directed all their malice towards the black dragon clan. Because an empire only needs to possess one strong dragon to dominate the continent. However, an adult dragon certainly won't obey their commands, so black dragon eggs have become their primary target. You see, the result is that a lackey like me gets caught in the crossfire, a Dak said with a shrug. There's always someone eyeing my egg. It's such a pain. If I could find a way back to Earth, why would I endure this? A place where I can't even play games. Why would someone like me want to stay here? Lu Fang now had a rough understanding of a Dak's situation. Then he had another question. Besides magic and combat aura, were there any other forms of power here? Because the power he possessed clearly didn't belong to either of those 2 categories. As far as I know, there aren't. Your power is very strange. I can't sense any trace of magic or combat aura waves from you, so how do you release your power? A Dak replied, conveniently asking a question back. In truth, Lu Fang still didn't fully understand how to control his own power. He replied that he only speculated the power came from a type of internal energy he had practiced since childhood. After hearing this, Adak just nodded and continued, "That might be because your entire body was transported here, so your power is different from this world's. However, it seems you've been living in this world for a while now. How did you manage to run all the way to such a remote forest by yourself? You almost ended up hurting me too." Adak's question reminded Lu Fong of that painful day when Cap Kak and Vini lost their lives to save him. Lu Fong couldn't stop blaming himself, believing his own naivety had led to their deaths. But after hearing Lu Fong recount the entire story, Adak suddenly lit a spark of hope for him. "Hearing you say that your Vini might still be salvageable. Because in this world there exists something called the Goddess of Life. According to legend, the Goddess of Life can resurrect the dead in a matter of minutes. Of course, the prerequisite is that you have to find her first." Lu Fong was both shocked and skeptical. He had never heard of this before, but just as he was about to ask Adak where to find her, the cave suddenly began to tremble violently. Lu Fong lost his footing and fell backward, while Adak's expression turned grim. Based on these spiritual power waves, he could tell that the uninvited guests were the same people from before. But how could they have found this place? Just then, a blue butterfly flew by. Without a word, Adak immediately crushed it. By the time he realized it was a tracking spell, it was already too late. The enemy was right outside. Adak had no choice but to open a teleportation circle again, telling Lu Fong to take his daughter and run first. "What about you?" Lu Fong asked anxiously. "I have to stay and hold them off. Don't worry, if I want to run, no one can stop me." Honestly, Lu Fong didn't feel at ease leaving Adak alone at all, but based on the previous situation, staying would be of no help and might even hold him back. Then, Adak threw him a new weapon, the very long sword that had been stuck in his chest, and instructed, "Take this with you. It's a holy weapon after all. But remember, don't use it too much, or you'll suffer a backlash. My daughter is counting on you." Lu Fong gritted his teeth, his heart set. He couldn't deny it. He was too weak right now and always needed someone to protect him. First it was Cap Kak and Vini, and now it was Adak. But to revive Vini and protect this dragon egg, he had to become stronger at any cost. Only then would it be his turn to protect others. As Lu Fong thought this, the teleportation circle was activated. But right after the cave began to shake even more violently. Adak was horrified when he realized the spiritual power waves from the group had struck the magic circle he just created, causing the teleportation coordinates to shift. He hurriedly shouted, "Lu Fong, don't go in there." However, both of their voices were drowned out by the roar of falling rocks. Lu Fong couldn't hear what Adak was saying, and his face, which had just been cut by a flying stone, was starting to bleed. A single drop of blood dripped onto the egg he was holding instantly, causing it to glow and heat up intensely. The other end of the teleportation circle opened, throwing Lu Fong and the dragon egg straight to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Lu Fong landed safely with the dragon egg, and luckily the holy sword came with him. The beastman's great plains. I think I heard Adak say the coordinates were off. Right, the egg. Just as he finished speaking, the egg suddenly jumped, startling Lu Fong. He had to use his body to catch it, causing him to fall flat on his back. He was crushed by the egg so hard he coughed up blood and cracks began to appear on the eggshell. Lu Fong sat up carefully, held the baby egg at a distance and cried out in alarm. Oh no, did it break from the fall? Just as he thought the egg was broken, it started to glow the light, so blinding it turned Lu Fong's face into a comical, dumbstruck expression. He gritted his teeth, trying to hold the egg tight, and glanced down to see what was happening. It's not going to explode, is it? The thought had barely left his mouth when the egg did in fact explode. The earth-shattering explosion shook the entire region and sent him flying high into the sky. Lu Fong tried to get to the egg, wanting to protect it while fearfully watching the energy enveloping it. Did I just hatch an atomic bomb? As time passed, the eggshell cracked open to reveal a tiny sleeping golden dragon. The little dragon finished hatching, lifted its sleek head, and looked at him with sparkling eyes, letting out a soft cry. Lu Fong gently held the little golden dragon, his eyes filled with an overwhelming affection, wanting to stroke it. A Chinese dragon, and it's a girl, so cute. But suddenly, the little golden dragon vanished in a puff of white smoke, reappearing as a baby with golden horns on his head. The moment he appeared, he angrily shouted, launched a kick straight at Lu Fong's face, leaving an adorable pink footprint on his cheek, and scolded, "I'm a boy." Lu Fong sat slumped on the ground, holding his left cheek, and glanced at the naked little kid beside him. Who taught you to speak like that?" And one look was all it took to shock him. What he saw immediately made him think of a mini cannon. Oh no. He couldn't hold his tongue, and uttered a phrase that earned him another angry kick from the baby dragon. Fully equipped. The baby dragon, not wanting Lu Fong to peep at his soft white body anymore, conjured a green outfit and put it on amidst Lu Fong's indignant cries. "The one who mistook your gender was Adak, your father. I shed so much blood to hatch you and you still hit me. Where's your conscience? Did your father eat your conscience?" After he was done scolding, he stopped and sighed, not noticing the baby dragon had already climbed onto his back. Why did I end up with this little ancestor? While he was busy lamenting, a small hand reached up, grabbed a handful of his hair by the temple and pulled, making Lu Fong yelp in pain. The arrogant little dragon then gracefully leaped onto his head and comfortably plopped his bottom down on his hair. Lu Fong clutched his chest, his body trembling as he sighed once more. His fragile heart couldn't take this stimulation. Fine, I'll go find some food for you." The little dragon crossed his arms and with a grumpy expression, said something that scared the daylights out of Lu Fong. "I'm hungry." "What do you want to eat?" "You want to eat dragon meat. You don't drink milk, do you?" After the panic subsided, he bent down to pick up the sword Adak had given him. Lu Fong lowered his center of gravity, and with the baby dragon on his head, prepared to set off to find something to eat, energy enveloping them both. Then with a whoosh he was gone, leaving only a lightning-fast streak of light, and a little dust kicked up into the air. Just as Lu Fong and the baby dragon left, a foot landed gently on the ground. An elderly man with a golden crown on his head appeared. He observed the area and said slowly, "We're too late. I can't sense it anymore." Following him were two strange individuals, one with a long scar across his left eye and a shorter one wearing a cloak that covered him from head to toe. It's been nearly 100 years. A supreme-level being has finally appeared in human territory, truly not easy. But this place seems to have the aura of the Dragon Clan. I wonder if this supreme being is human or dragon. The three of them looked towards the direction Lu Fang had just left, where a faint trace of his magic power still lingered. Is this a sign that the continent will welcome a new legend? An hour later elsewhere, Lu Fang with a face full of pride was smiling hideously as he sniffed the rising aroma. The adorable baby dragon's eyes were also sparkling like stars drooling as he inhaled the fragrant smell. The two were sitting in a corner. The adult was evenly turning a stick of roasted meat over a large fire, while the little one waited eagerly, so happy his little tail couldn't stay still. A while later, Lu Fang took the hot, golden-brown wild beast meat off the fire. It should be ready. The moment he brought it in front of the baby dragon, the little one couldn't resist taking a huge bite, as if he had been starving for a very long time. Lu Fang watched him and couldn't stop smiling, kindly reminding the little one, "Be careful not to burn yourself. If it's not enough, I'll catch more for you." But his kindness was met with a sideways glare. The little dragon, while chewing, tried to shield his food from Lu Fang's sight. So he had to explain himself once more. "What's wrong? I'm not hungry yet. You eat first." The baby dragon looked down at the roasted meat in his hand, his cheeks still puffed with meat, but said something that deserved a spanking. "The taste is mediocre. I am not pleased." Lu Fang forced a smile to hide his irritation. He really wanted to give this kid a beating. So hard to please. Then he looked up at the stars. One big and one small leaning against each other, whispering, "Right, Adak didn't tell me your name. How about I give you a name first?" Lu Fang looked down at the baby dragon, asking for his opinion with a gentle gaze. "Seeing as you were born with a sparkling golden body, how about we call you Tu Kim?" The baby dragon with a deadpan expression spat out a small bone without replying. "What's with that expression? Are you mocking my naming skills?" Tu Kim, full from his meal, used Lu Fang's leg as a bed and obediently lay down under his gentle gaze. "I'm full. I want to sleep. Don't bother me." After he fell sound asleep, Lu Fang admired the adorable little face while thinking to himself, "Adak must have escaped safely. Since Adak entrusted you to me, I will definitely take good care of you." He frowned, his lips pressed tightly together as he looked at Tu Kim in his lap, silently making his decision. "I will definitely become stronger. I'll protect Tu Kim well, and I have to revive Vini and the others. Next time I absolutely will not let myself just run away." Lu Fang looked up at the sparkling starry sky, lost in thought. There seemed to be a lot of magical beasts around here. I'll use them for practice first. After finding a safe place to rest, I'll continue to gather clues about the goddess and then figure out a way to reunite with Adak. The scene changes to a magnificent hall with high, intricately carved walls. A figure stood in the middle, intently examining something. The Imperial Hall of the Azure Empire's capital. He turned his head, a panicked look on his face, and looked at someone behind him, asking in a hurried tone, "Emperor Tham Tuong, what did you just say?" Tham Tuong's cloaked subordinate, kneeling on one knee, respectfully reported again. "Reporting to your majesty, the team sent to seize the dragon egg has sent word." His expression wasn't good either. He looked worriedly at the emperor and said clearly, "The mission failed. The black dragon has escaped." Tham Tuong angrily pointed at him. The emperor's fury escalated. "A bunch of useless trash. You had holy weapons, yet you couldn't even handle a single dragon whose cultivation has been damaged." Vi Kuang trembled, his face dark, but he still tried to report the rest of the information he had received. According to the report, the black dragon also had a human accomplice. Hearing this, Tham Tuong's brows furrowed even tighter, his sharp gaze fixed on his subordinate. "How could a human be with a dragon? Who is it?" Vi Kuang recalled the person's appearance, tall and thin, with black hair, fighting alongside Adak as a pair. He lowered his head, his face drenched in sweat, his voice trembling with each breath. It was a young man with black hair and black pupils. "This subordinate will send men to hunt him down." Tham Tuong tilted his chin up, his arrogant and fierce face filled with rage as he glanced down at Vi Kuang. "No need. I have other plans for this matter." The scene returns to the vast green plains under a clear blue sky with flocks of birds flying peacefully. 10 days later, but in a corner of that lush plain, a series of arrow-shaped wooden signs with writing that didn't fit the scenery were stuck all over the ground. "Food. Meet 50 meters ahead." The wind whistled past the wooden signs. One large and one small figure lay prone on the ground with some dirt and fresh flowers on their heads, right in the middle of the directional arrows. "Delicious meat, come and eat me. Look here to eat." A strong gust of wind blew by, stripping the delicate petals from the flowers on their heads. Both little flowers quickly wilted, their heads bowed, no longer having the vitality to show off their beauty and fragrance. A man and a small dragon lay on the ground, trying their best to stay still and camouflage themselves to hunt prey. But little Tu Kim was about to give out. His face was pale, and he weakly reached out to Lu Fang for help. "Lu Fang, I'm so hungry." He scooted closer to Tu Kim, his face just as withered as the little dragon's, but he still offered encouragement. "Don't rush. Just hold on a little longer." Just as Lu Fang finished speaking, a beast slowly stepped onto the green grass, drawing near. A crimson wolf with blood-red eyes had accidentally wandered into this place. It stared intently at the flower stuck on Lu Fang's head. Seeing the prey take the bait, his eyes lit up and he thought with a wicked grin, finally hooked one. Tu Kim also tried his best to lie still, but drool was already starting to leak out. "My dinner." Just as the crimson wolf was within their reach, a sudden shout was heard. It startled the wolf, which whipped its head around to look at the source of the sound. "Captain, there are people over there." Following the voice, a burly man holding binoculars was observing a certain direction. Lu Fang and Tu Kim remained flat on the ground, glancing over at the man, silently observing. The crimson wolf also saw them and turned to growl at the group of strangers. The man's binoculars focused on Lu Fang and Tu Kim. Through the lens he saw Lu Fong trying to wave at him. Go go go. And right near them was the tall crimson wolf, its fangs protruding, gleaming like sword blades. He lowered the binoculars, sweat beading on his forehead, his face quite serious as he muttered, "That young man is signaling for our help. They've been targeted by a 7th-rank crimson wolf, and don't dare to make a move." He looked decisively in that direction and quickly made a decision, saying to his 3 teammates, "Let's go save him." His bald-headed teammate next to him seemed more cautious. He turned to remind his captain. "Wait, Captain. I'm afraid there's something strange about this." Hearing his teammate, he glanced over and asked, "Why do you say that, Boy Thap?" The man named Boy Thap lowered his head and analyzed his thoughts for him. "Captain, this area is usually teeming with magical beasts, but this time we've been walking for a long time and haven't seen a single one. Isn't that very unusual?" He also carefully observed the situation around where Lu Fong was lying. A series of arrows are pointing straight at them, and the setup around that young man looks very bizarre. "I'm afraid there's a problem here." But his captain closed his eyes, waved his hand dismissively, and said firmly, "Boy Thap, I know you're cautious, but a life is at stake now. The Xinyiet Mercenary Corps will absolutely not stand by and watch someone die." Then he quickly pointed straight at the Crimson Wolf opposite them, leading everyone to begin the rescue mission. "A Nifap, cover Take Ma with me." The 4 of them quickly formed up. A Nifap led the charge with his axe, followed closely by the captain, drawing his sword under the cover of Ma and Boy Thap. The captain followed, drew his sword, and charged to the front line with a determined look. Ma in the back knocked an arrow, channeled energy into it, and let it fly. A Nifap also let out a great shout, charging forward with his iron axe, fighting alongside his captain. Behind them, Boy Thap provided support. He stood still, channeling a spell, and shot his energy directly at the Crimson Wolf. The arrow and fireball from the 2 reached the Crimson Wolf first. It was also ready to engage the group of 4. It lowered its center of gravity, gathered its strength, and leaped high into the air, sending blades of grass flying in the wind. Its massive body soared through the air, ferociously lunging at the Xinyiet Mercenary Corps. Captain Kang Tu saw the Crimson Wolf's action and hastily shouted, "The Crimson Wolf is coming, run." The group's impressive formation lasted only a moment before they turned tail and fled, with Kang Tu running the fastest. "Run quick." Immediately after, he turned his head and shouted loudly to Lu Fong's group, "We'll lure the Crimson Wolf away. Little brother, you guys run now." Tu Kim sat up, his empty stomach rumbling, as he watched the group lure the Crimson Wolf away until it was just a shadow. His eyes welled up with tears, his adorable little face watching his dinner run away. Tu Kim burst into tears, crying and wailing loudly. "Dinner. They took my dinner away." Lu Fong propped himself up with his sword and stood up, looking in the direction the group had led the Crimson Wolf. "They got into trouble trying to save us. We can't just sit here and do nothing." As soon as the words left his mouth, he dashed off. The spot next to Tu Kim was now empty, with no sign of Lu Fong. Seeing this, Tu Kim frantically chased after him. "Hey, don't abandon me." Over on the other side, the Crimson Wolf was hot on the heels of Kang Tu's group, forcing them to run for their lives. Kang Tu and Nifap were running with all their might, one carrying an axe on his shoulder. The other, with even longer legs, was also running at full speed with his sword, but looking back he couldn't understand. "How is it still so close? We can't shake it." A Nifap carrying his axe was crying without tears, his slightly aged face scrunched up. "You guys clearly couldn't beat a 7th-rank Crimson Wolf, so why did you have to play the hero? I haven't even held a pretty girl's hand yet." But being poor and unlucky, there was a rock in his path while he was running for his life. Kang Tu was running too fast, tripped on the rock, and went flying forward, much to the group's horror. The Crimson Wolf saw this, but didn't stop. This group had already driven it mad. It leaped, intending to pounce on the fallen Kang Tu, but just as it was about to finish him, its body was struck by a fatal blow. Bright red blood sprayed in all directions, and Kang Tu, who was right underneath, was splattered with quite a bit of it, his mouth agape in surprise. The sword blade was still glowing with the blue light of magical energy, with small lightning bolts crackling around it. The person's feet touched the ground, feeling incredibly light and graceful. Lu Fong slung the sword over his shoulder, standing proudly over the corpse of the large Crimson Wolf. He leaned down towards Kang Tu and spoke with a smile, while the man was too shocked to say a word. "Big brother, thank you for saving my life just now, eh?" While he was busy expressing his gratitude, where did Tu Kim come from? He leaped onto Lu Fong's head and shouted excitedly, "Dinner meat." The 4 members of the Xinyiet Mercenary Corps stared blankly at their strange behavior. What is this situation? Night fell, and a bonfire was lit, illuminating a space in the vast plains. The group of 6 sat around the fire, roasting the Crimson Wolf's meat and enjoying the hot, fragrant barbecue together. Kang Tu, while chewing on the meat, looked at Lu Fong with a smile and praised him. "Little brother, you're truly talented to think of using yourself as bait to lure beasts." He was embarrassed by the praise and scratched his head, confessing honestly to Kang Tu, "The nearby magical beasts have already been caught and fed to Tu Kim by me. Any surviving beasts run away the moment they see me, so I could only play dead and use myself as bait to lure them in." Hearing this, the man finally paid attention to the little boy beside him. He turned his head to look and saw Teo Kim straining to bite a piece of meat bigger than his own body. "So that's how it is. No wonder we didn't see any magical beasts along the way." Kang Tu looked at Lu Fong, propped one knee up, rested his arm on it, and said, "In that case, little brother, why don't you consider leaving this place?" Lu Fong lowered his head, hiding his eyes in the shadow of his bangs, and said with a smile, "I don't know where I can go." Hearing this, the man was taken aback, looking at him with a very surprised expression as he asked nowhere to go. Lu Fong didn't hide anything, slowly speaking his mind. "We're not used to life here. We basically have no idea where to go." Hearing this, Kang Tu rushed over and slapped Lu Fong on the shoulder, startling him with the sudden gesture. "Not used to life, huh? Brother Lu, don't you worry. I Kang Tu have traveled north and south. I know this whole continent like the back of my hand. Where do you want to go?" Just ask me. Seeing Kang Tu's confidence, Lu Fang's face lit up, his eyes sparkling with hope as he looked at him. Really, big brother Kang Tu then? Do you know where the goddess of life is? Lu Fang's question caught the attention of him and his group. But Kang Tu, an honest man, just scratched his head and admitted sheepishly to him. The goddess of life. You're asking someone who's completely in the dark about that. Just then, Boy Thap, who had been listening quietly, suddenly spoke up. Many years ago, after the War of the Gods ended, the world's deities ceased their activities. Since then, no one has ever seen the goddess of life. Hearing this was like a bolt from the blue for Lu Fang. His eyes widened in shock. He lowered his face, bowed his head sadly, and mumbled to himself, "What do I do now?" His hand gripping his knee trembled slightly, and his tall thin body began to slump. Despondent and dejected, Lu Fang knelt beside his sword. Could it be that Vini can't be resurrected? Seeing his spirits sink, Kang Tu came over to encourage him. He placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Brother, just because no one has seen the goddess of life doesn't mean she doesn't exist." He quickly seized the opportunity, a slightly scheming smile noticed by Tu Kim. "Why don't you consider joining our mercenary group?" Kang Tu and his 3 teammates waited eagerly for his pitch. "Once you become a mercenary, you can go to the mercenary guild. There you can buy all sorts of intelligence. Perhaps you'll find a clue about the goddess of life." He painted a picture of golden coins raining down from the sky. The dazzling glint of gold was enough to mesmerize anyone. Plus, you get mission rewards, so you never have to worry about food. Big fish, fine meat. Lu Fang looked back at him with astonished eyes. A clue about the goddess of life. Meanwhile, Tu Kim was dreaming of filling his perpetually empty stomach. Big fish, fine meat. The two looked at each other, grinned broadly, and replied to Kang Tu in unison. "I agree." Lu Fang stood up to speak for the both of them. "All right then, big bro Kang Tu will join." Kang Tu was overjoyed to get his consent. He grabbed Lu Fang's shoulders in welcome. "This is great. With an expert like you joining our mercenary group, we'll definitely have a chance to become a top-tier guild." Catch Ma and Nifap grinned from ear to ear, welcoming the 2 new members to their group. "Welcome, let's work together to become the best mercenary group." Only Boy Thap said nothing, his eyes secretly glancing towards the 2 of them. Meanwhile, Lu Fang rubbed his head gleefully, giving them a mischievous smile. Beside him, Tu Kim was jumping for joy non-stop. Just as the 2 were getting excited, Kang Tu pulled out a stack of papers and slammed it down, grabbing their attention. Lu Fang and Tu Kim followed the sound and looked at the pile of documents on the ground. Seeing how tall it was, their jaws nearly hit the floor. "All right, sign this contract. Once you're done, you'll officially be a member of our Shiniet Mercenary Guild." He scratched his head and picked up the first page of the contract to examine it. Then he asked, "Where did you guys hide this contract before? It's so thick. What's written in it?" He slapped the stack of contracts which came up to his waist and explained to the still confused pair. "If you don't understand it, I'll explain it to you slowly. Once you get it, you can sign. There's no rush." Kang Tu began his lecture, rattling off a series of details, including various insurance policies, welfare benefits, travel opportunities, holiday bonuses, year-end profit, sharing housing, subsidies work, support meal allowances, disability, insurance consolation payments, and death benefits. Lu Fang listened to him go on for a while until his head was spinning. Unable to take it anymore, he quickly raised his hand to stop him. Stop, say no more, I'll sign." He took a small hesitant step forward but finally moved ahead with an impressed sigh. So massive. The scene changes to a small town where the streets still seem rather quiet. A tavern located at the end of the street buzzed with noise. Inside, Lu Fang was sitting with Kang Tu at the head of the bar. "Brother Lu, this is the Mercenary Tavern of the Sun Never Sets stronghold. It may not be big, but it has a great selection of drinks. Mercenaries from around here love to come for a drink." Just as Kang Tu described, the small tavern was bustling with life. The entire Shiniet mercenary group was cheerfully enjoying the delicious beer and snacks. Lu Fang turned to see everyone having a good time. The little dragon Tu Kim's eyes lit up too. "It really is lively. There are so many pretty ladies here. I love it." Just then the bar owner placed 2 mugs of ice-cold beer foaming over the top in front of them, and said with a smile, "Gentlemen, here is your dragon's blood beer." She had also thoughtfully made a glass of juice for Tu Kim, pushing it towards him and saying gracefully, "Little brother, here's your fruit juice." But the little dragon curiously leaned over to Lu Fang, peering into his beer mug, then crossed his arms in a huff, demanding why everyone else got beer. Then he turned to the bar owner, his eyes sparkling like stars, trying to look as cute as possible to win her over. "Pretty lady, can I have a glass of liquor? Make it the strongest you've got." Seeing his request, the bar owner leaned on the counter with her arms crossed, got closer to Tu Kim, and asked, "Little brother, how old are you? Youngsters who drink alcohol don't grow tall, you know." When asked about his age, Tu Kim looked quite confident. He proudly crossed his arms and told the bar owner, "If you count the time I was in my egg, I'm already several hundred years old." The owner was startled. She brought her face close to Tu Kim's, her eyes wide as she stared at the tiny person before her. Several hundred years old, including the time in the egg. Then, as if hearing a hilarious joke, she couldn't help but burst out laughing, forcing Lu Fang to rush over and cover Tu Kim's mouth. "Don't tell me you're going to say you're from the Dragon Clan." "That's right, my little brother likes to brag. Don't listen to his nonsense." She bent down and gently tapped the tip of Tu Kim's nose with her fingertip. So cute. With that, she stood up, blew a kiss, and winked at Tu Kim, saying a quick farewell before leaving. "Little one, I have to get back to work. I'll play with you later." Seeing her leave, he panicked frantically, jumping on the table and waving his hands. "Wait, don't go. Do kids these days really mature so fast?" Tu Kim failed to get a drink and was dismissed as a bragging child. He angrily turned and grabbed Lu Fang by the collar. "Why didn't you let me reveal my identity? If that pretty lady knew I was from the Dragon Clan, she would definitely like me even more." Lu Fong turned around carefully, looking left and right to check their surroundings, then whispered to the pouting Tu Kim, who had his arms crossed and eyes shut tight on the table. There are too many shady people here. If you admit you're a dragon, we'll definitely be hunted down. He pointed at Tu Kim, his threatening tone making the little guy tremble with fear. Do you want to DD? The little dragon stopped making a fuss. The mention of life and death immediately made him behave. He touched his small head and sighed. Fine, I won't say it again. Just as they finished their private conversation, Kong Tu approached. He warmly invited the two of them. Aren't you too hungry just sitting here? Order whatever you want, it's my treat. Tu Kim's eyes lit up at the mention of food, and his little tail started wagging uncontrollably. Really? Go ahead and order. Don't be shy with your big bro. Getting the confirmation, he didn't hold back. Grinning from ear to ear, he shouted, Pretty lady, bring me a menu, I want to order. The bar owner quickly brought out a huge platter of meat. Tu Kim immediately forgot everything else and dived into his dinner. Meanwhile, Lu Fong turned to ask Kang Tu, Big bro Kang Tu, will there really be an information broker here who knows about the goddess of life? He stopped drinking his beer and confidently assured him, In the sun never sets. Stronghold. The place with the most information brokers is right here. If you want to hear news, coming to the mercenary tavern was the right move. They followed his gesture and looked towards the increasingly drunk crowd behind them. So how many information brokers are in there? Let's go ask around. Time passed quickly and outside the sky had brightened. Birds chirped, welcoming the new day. Kong Tu patted the shoulder of the dejected-looking man who was lying face down on the table. Brother Lu, it seems, finding the goddess of life is really difficult. I won't give up. Only then did he pay attention to his words and ask seriously, Brother Lu, why are you in such a hurry to find the goddess? Could it be for immortality? Lu Fong was silent for a moment, recalling the images of Jia, Cap, Kak, and Vini. I lost someone very important to me. I hope the goddess of life can help me resurrect them. Hearing such heartfelt words pleased Kong Tu greatly. He slapped him firmly on the shoulder, raised his beer mug, and said, Brother Lu is truly a man of loyalty and honor. I, Kong Tu, am lucky to have a friend like you. Lu Fong turned to him, smiled at his sincere face and words, and said, Thanks, Kong Tu. But before Lu Fong could finish his thanks, they were both distracted by a commotion behind them. How can one kid eat so much? Wait, I treated you to a meal, not told you to eat everything, leaving nothing for me. Is this kid okay? Hearing them, Lu Fong was startled and immediately turned to search their table. A kid? Are they talking about Tu Kim? Sure enough, Tu Kim, who had been eating meat at their table just moments ago, was nowhere to be seen. Wasn't he just here? Let's go check it out. He followed Kong Tu and the others to where the commotion was, and everyone looked quite surprised. It turned out Tu Kim wasn't full yet, so he went over to another table to freeload. He was now sitting on the table battling a huge piece of meat amidst the amazed and excited gazes of the onlookers. Kong Tu's face went pale when he saw Tu Kim's appetite, completely shocked. Lu Fong, feeling helpless, covered his face with his hand and made up an excuse. Oh my god, Tu Kim can eat this much. Tu Kim's body is still growing, so he eats a little more than usual. The entire mercenary group was in utter shock as the owner continued to bring out more meat for Tu Kim. Kong Tu looked at the meat and asked Lu Fong, Are you sure it's just a little more? Just then the tavern door was pushed open from the outside, causing the small bell hanging on it to jingle. Seeing the group that had just entered, Kong Tu threw an arm around Lu Fong and spun him around. Luckily, he managed to grab the little rascal Tu Kim with him at the same time. Let's go, we're out of here. Huh, what's going on? He secretly glanced back towards the other side of the tavern. The group that just entered was fawning over a dark-skinned man. Even the beautiful bar owner respectfully presented the menu to him with both hands. Lu Fong looked worriedly at the group and whispered to Lu Fong, Those guys at the door are the Delusion Mercenary Guild. We've had a few run-ins with them before. They're always looking for trouble. They have more people today, so we should avoid them. He turned back, his confident and cheerful expression gone, and whispered with his head slightly bowed, It should be fine. But just as Kong Tu finished his sentence, a group of people approached and greeted him cheerfully. Kong Tu, long time no see. Brothers, let me introduce you to my new friend. The dark-skinned man from the Delusion Guild held a beautiful woman in his arms, his lecherous face, asking her tenderly, Sweetheart, the roasted beef here is amazing. Want to try some? Okay, darling. After getting a reply from his lover, he raised his hand and snapped his fingers loudly. The bar owner, Mai Lin, appeared quickly. She bowed her head, holding the menu. Sir, what can I get for you? 3 orders of roasted beef. 3 whole orders. After he ordered, Mai Lin spoke even more softly, bowing her head lower. I'm very sorry, the roasted beef is sold out. Hearing that the beef was sold out, he flew into a rage, his small eyes glaring at Mai Lin. But then he turned his head, his expression doing a 180, as he spoke gently to the girl in his arms. Sweetheart, how about we have the steamed griffin claws instead? Mai Lin tried to maintain her professional smile, but sweat was already beading on her beautiful face. I'm so sorry, the griffin claws are also sold out. Ngokai glanced at her, his attitude, making it clear he was getting more annoyed with every word she said. He still tried to restrain himself, asking Mai Lin as politely as possible. So what do you have now? But she could only look at Ngokai timidly and reply, All the meat is gone. We only have vegetables left. He held his woman leaning in close to Mai Lin, neither of their faces friendly at all. Sold out, how is that possible? The bar owner, frightened of him, stepped aside and timidly pointed towards the bar where Kang Tu's group was standing. All the meat was ordered by those customers over there. Ngokai looked over and saw it was Kang Tu and his familiar brothers laughing and joking happily. He raised an eyebrow, smirking arrogantly, then stood up. His eyes never left Kang Tu's group as he said, Well, look who it is. Over here, Kang Tu still had no idea he'd been spotted. He was still excitedly introducing Lu Fong to his friends. A level 7 red wolf. My friend Lu here took care of it with a single sword strike. Kang Tu, you must be exaggerating. It's true, killed a level 7 red wolf with 1 strike. Is your brother about to reach the saint level or something? Lu Fang sat there, his face slightly red with embarrassment. He scratched his chin, wanting to interject. Actually, But once again he didn't get a chance to finish his sentence before Ngokai and his woman appeared behind them. Well, if it isn't Kang Tu, why didn't you die on the savage Great Plains? Damn it, didn't this pig just sit down and start eating? How did he get over here? He started clucking his tongue disdainfully at Kang Tu, waving his arms and spouting infuriating words. Our Delusion Mercenary Guild had already prepared a funeral for you. You've ruined a perfectly good funeral. Hearing such venomous taunts infuriated Kang Tu. He slammed his hand on the table and spun around to confront him. Kang Tu stared him straight in the face and yelled, Ngokai, don't push it. But this guy was thick-skinned and thick-headed and didn't pay any attention to his words. He glanced at him with contempt. Push it. What's more pushy than your bragging? He looked over at the small and slender Lu Fang, rudely pointing directly at his face and saying, you just said this guy could take down a level 7 Red Wolf with one blow. This person doesn't have a single trace of fighting spirit or magic on him. On what basis do you claim he killed a Red Wolf, based on that big mouth of yours? With that, he and his group stood there throwing their heads back and laughing loudly to provoke Kang Tu. I'm telling the truth, Brother Lu finished off the Red Wolf with one strike. Ngokai didn't believe it. He puffed out his chest and shouted over him. Alright then, I happen to be at level 7 strength. Tell your brother to take me out with one blow. If he can't, it proves you're lying. He continued to act with utter disrespect, pointing in his face and continuing the humiliation. And then you'll have to tell everyone here that Kang Tu is a big-mouthed liar. Lu Fang couldn't take it anymore. He turned and responded before Kang Tu could speak. I'll take that bet. And if we're going to bet, let's make it a big one. He raised his head and looked directly at the big crude man in front of him, asking with a serious expression, if you lose, you crawl out of here. How about it? Hearing the challenge, Ngokai immediately dropped into a stance. He released his fighting spirit as a show of force against Lu Fang. Fine, then come on, let's see who's the pathetic one who gets taken down in one move. Kang Tu stood in front of Lu Fang, angrily pointing at Ngokai to expose him. Wait a minute, you're lying, you're clearly level 8 amperes. Vein bulged on Ngokai's head as he glared down at the two of them. So what if I am? It's too late for regrets now. Kang Tu knew there was no reasoning with this guy. He turned to Lu Fang, who was looking around for something. Brother Lu, listen to me. You should go now. As he spoke, he reached over and grabbed a straw from a half-finished glass of orange juice on Mylin's tray. It's fine, big bro Kang Tu. Don't you trust my strength? Miss, I'm just borrowing this straw for a second. The tavern suddenly became an arena. Kang Tu stood beside Lu Fang, worried sick, looking at the amount of magic Ngokai was releasing. But Lu Fang was strangely calm. He held up the cute yellow straw and said with a mocking smile, I don't need a sword to deal with you. A straw is more than enough. His words made Ngokai's blood boil. He gritted his teeth, infuriated by Lu Fang's mockery. But confident in his level 8 status, Ngokai sneered at Lu Fang. You little brat, you've successfully pissed me off. I'm about to make you regret ever meeting me. Lu Fang waited for him to finish, then released his own fighting spirit. A gentle blue aura completely overwhelmed Ngokai's fiery red. Then without a sound he pointed the tiny straw straight at the man's face. Lu Fang's expression was resolute, the straw in his hand aimed straight at Ngokai. In my opinion, the one who should have regrets is you. Regardless of the fight happening over there, Teo Kim was still munching away on his delicious roasted meat. The other patrons in the tavern were all stunned into silence, their attention focused on the confrontation. Look, someone actually dares to challenge Ngokai. Ngokai has already broken through to level 8. One wrong move and you're dead. Teo Kim with a mouthful of meat turned his head and said in a childish voice, what's so interesting about a fight? Eating is much better. Over here Lu Fang still had his hand pointed at Ngokai, while the big man took a step back and stomped his foot hard as a show of force. The two opponents faced each other, one tall and clad in spiked armor, the other fair and small, armed only with a juice straw. Jia Tuan, standing behind them, stroked his chin and whispered to a very tense Kang Tu. Kang Tu, is your friend going to be okay? Ngokai looks really angry. Your friend is so small, can he really fight Ngokai? He was also very worried about his new brother, but he respected him, which is why he stood aside. Even though I feel Brother Lu is pretty capable, Ngokai's strength is beyond imagination. I'm just afraid. Kang Tu watched Lu Fang's back as he twirled the straw in his hand and clenched his fists. Brother Lu is my friend. He's only in this conflict with Ngokai because of me. If I don't trust him, what kind of person am I? He believed in his brother. Having decided what he needed to do, Kang Tu became more confident, smiling at those beside him. I saw with my own eyes Brother Lu kill a red wolf with a single strike. So what if Ngokai is stronger than a red wolf? He's definitely no match for Brother Lu. He turned to Than Vai, and Nifap, hands on his hips, and said with a serious expression, if you don't believe me, let's make a bet. A bet's a bet. If you want to give away your money, we'll gladly take it. But I'm afraid this time you'll lose both your money and your friend. Over here, Ngokai was cracking his knuckles loudly to intimidate Lu Fang. Kid, are you ready to die? I'm ready. He channeled his energy into the straw, making it rigid. With a smile on his face, ready for battle, he told Ngokai, but not to die. As soon as he finished speaking, Ngokai shattered the wooden floor and charged like a ferocious beast with a loud roar. It seems in this world the saying he who strikes first is bound to lose doesn't exist. Lu Fang calmly watched him charge, swinging his arm to the side as he calculated. This is a good chance to test the technique I mastered a few days ago in Hoa. He closed his eyes, calmed his mind and weapon, and recited the incantation in his head. One mind, two thoughts. One body, two forms. With a misty illusion, I summoned my image-splitting spirit. Then with a whoosh, one person became two splitting apart, just as Ngokai's punch arrived. The appearance of two Lu Fangs confused him. He looked back and forth, wondering what was happening. What the hell is this? While he was distracted, the Lu Fang holding the straw pointed its sharp end forward and struck decisively. Ngokai froze in place, glancing down with a blood-curdling scream. The two Lu Fongs, one on the left and one on the right, had struck an unspeakable spot on Ngokai's muscular body, even snapping his belt. Ngokai took the hit, blood spraying from his nose. His face contorted in pain, and his eyes rolled back into his head. His massive body was sent flying backward by a terrifying force smashing through the tavern wall. The wooden wall shattered, but it couldn't stop Ngokai from flying out of the building. Lu Fong merged back into one person, standing in the broken doorway, looking at the man who was now knocked out cold. Looks like you don't have to crawl out on your own after all. He lifted the tattered straw, looking at it with a sense of speechlessness. That was a close call. Using a straw was really pushing it. Ngokai's entire group ran outside to check on him. Kang Tu also went out amidst the crowd's murmurs. Ngokai was sent flying with a single blow. Is this Ngokai an imposter? After confirming the man's condition, he returned to Lu Fong's side, clapped him on the shoulder and praised him excitedly. Brother Lu, that was amazing. Then he turned his head, a proud, exploitative smile on his face, and held out his hand to his two brothers. Pay up, pay up. You must have conspired with Ngokai to scam us. Ngokai's underlings struggled to pull their boss up their faces, pale with shock, but they still tried to make empty threats. You just wait. Our guild leader will settle the score with you. Then the whole group quickly packed up and scattered, running for their lives, when they saw Lu Fong take a step forward. It seems no matter where you go, the villain's lines are always the same. Kang Tu held up two large heavy bags of money he had just won and showed them to him. Brother Lu, you're so strong, thanks to you. I made a lot of money, I'll split it with you. Big bro Kang Tu, don't be so formal. You should keep this money as funds for the mercenary guild. But then he carefully leaned in and whispered an important matter in Lu Fong's ear. Brother Lu, with Ngokai humiliated like this, the leader of the Delusion Mercenary Guild will definitely not let it go. We should probably get out of here. Okay, I'll go get to you, Kim. Let's leave now. Then he turned to Mai Lin's counter and placed a bag of money on it, much to her surprise. Kang Tu stood proudly next to two large bags of money and said to her with a laugh, My lady, the bill please, I'll pay for the damages. Mai Lin picked up the money bag to check it. She seemed a bit confused and hesitantly asked, Mr. Kang Tu, there's too much money. It's just a little extra, you don't need to pay it back. But his swagger lasted only a few seconds before Mai Lin's next words made him panic. She was a bit embarrassed but needed to be clear. Mr. Kang Tu, I was wondering how you plan to pay the remaining balance. Your food bill, plus the cost of repairing the damages. This isn't enough. His face fell as he held out his hand to her, his posture slumping as he said, What? Not enough, let me see the bill. The bill in his hand was so long it swept the floor, leaving Kang Tu speechless. Lu Fong could only hide his face in shame. Meanwhile, the little troublemaker let out a satisfied burp and rolled over to sleep. Brother Tu Kim, how much did you actually eat? I'm only about 90% full. How embarrassing. Inside, the noisy tavern continued to welcome new customers despite the brawl that had just occurred. Kang Tu and Lu Fong walked down the road shirtless. Lu Fong turned to him and apologized sheepishly. Big bro Kang Tu, I'm really sorry. Not only did you have to spend all your winnings, but you also had to pawn our clothes. But Kang Tu was a straightforward and chivalrous man. He didn't mind at all, and even laughed, pointing to himself. It's nothing. We're brothers. What's a little thing like this? But thinking about the debt to the tavern, his face soured again. He grimaced and muttered, It's just that we still owe the tavern quite a bit of money. We have to figure something out. The two continued walking through the quiet forest, a strong wind whistling through the tall trees. Just then a person in a purple face-concealing cloak appeared behind Kang Tu and Lu Fong. The person spoke, stopping them in their tracks. I have a commission I'd like to entrust to you. I wonder if you're interested. The scene changes to a large, magnificent estate, but the front yard looks like a mud pit with three figures sinking below. Backyard of the Delusion Guild. Guild leader Hack. Though we know we were wrong, please spare us. They struggled in the mire trying to escape, but only sank deeper. Next time, even if we die, we will definitely complete the mission. Then slowly, the person's entire body submerged, leaving only a single hand reaching up from the bubbling mud. No. At that moment, several people ran in at once, their footsteps thudding on the polished wooden floor. Guild leader Hack, though, it was Ngokai's cronies returning to report the situation. Vice leader Ngokai has been injured. The mud below began to bubble again. A voice echoed from beneath the swamp. Ngokai is injured. Who did it? The three henchmen on the bank quickly reported the situation as the bubbling grew louder. We don't know him. He seems to be Kang Tu's new helper. Everyone at the tavern saw it. That guy defeated Vice Leader Ngokai with a single move. A head slowly emerged from the black mud, revealing a shiny, smooth forehead. The man emerged, his bare upper body rising from the mud, and looked at them with small, dark, circled eyes. Although Ngokai just broke through to level 8, and his realm is unstable to be defeated in one blow. Where did that useless Kang Tu find such an expert? Where are they now? I want to see who dares to oppose my Delusion Guild. He stepped out of the mud naked, placing a mud-caked foot onto the steps. According to reports, they went to the Mercenary Guild. Hack Tho glanced at Wu Huyen, who had just reported. The man immediately flinched and looked away, avoiding his guild leader's gaze. The Mercenary Guild, what are they doing there? I don't know. The scene shifts to a rather large building with quite a few people coming and going in front of it, the Mercenary Guild. In the guild's hallway, Lu Fong and Tu Kim followed behind Kang Tu. He asked curiously, Big bro Kang Tu, how did we get our clothes back? Naturally, I sacrificed my handsome face to get them back from the bar owner. You're lying, I don't believe you. But really, as long as I get a level 7 mercenary qualification, I can accept that C-rank commission, the man mentioned. Yes, a mercenary group cannot accept a commission that exceeds its rank. Our Shiniet Mercenary Guild was originally only D rank. He happily shared what he knew with him, not hiding a single thing. To accept a C-rank commission, the guild must have at least one level 7 expert. If your test shows you are level 7 or higher, our guild will also be promoted to C rank. In Kang Tu's mind, glittering gold coins made his smile even brighter. Once we complete this C rank mission, we'll have the money to compensate the bar owner. But contrary to Kang Tu's optimism, Lu Fang was more concerned about the masked man who had given them the commission letter. I keep feeling like something is wrong. How could a mission just fall into our laps so coincidentally? The mission invitation will be delivered to the mansion then. What is the background of that mysterious person? Kang Tu patted his shoulder, pulling him out of his tangled thoughts. What are you thinking about? Look ahead. Right in front of them was a large stone slab carved with the image of a sun surrounded by chains. Kang Tu looked at the stone slab and introduced it to Lu Fang. We're here. We can test your strength using the testing stone. The two behind him followed, carefully observing the man in front, who was punching the stone hard. Level 5. Next, at the call, Lu Fang stepped forward. Before he went, he turned to say something to Kang Tu and Tu Kim, and quickly received enthusiastic encouragement from both. I'm going to take the test. I'll be right back. Go for it, go for it, go for it. Lu Fang approached the examiner to register. He smiled and scratched his head. Hello, this is my first time applying for mercenary status. I'd like to test my strength. Stand in the middle and hit it with a full power punch. He approached the testing stone and stood in the center as instructed. Then Lu Fang unleashed a punch with all his might. Everyone watched the entire process in silence. But when the punch was over, Lu Fang clutched his right shoulder, rotating his arm to relax it. The examiner behind him, however, was sweating, looking anxiously at the completely unresponsive testing stone. Why is there no reaction? Swang Tin stepped forward, leaning in to assess Lu Fang, which startled him slightly. Wait a minute. You have no fighting spirit. Do you know any magic? No. Hearing Lu Fang's nonchalant reply, he got so angry he snapped the brush pen in his hand. The crowd behind them also reacted as if they'd heard a joke. No fighting spirit and no magic. What are you even testing? Are you messing with me? No fighting spirit and no magic. Isn't that a martial magic cripple? A useless cripple wants to be a mercenary. What an idiot. At that moment, a burly bearded man with a vicious scar on his face snorted coldly. He approached, reaching a hand toward Lu Fang, intending to do something. He grabbed Lu Fang by the collar, yanking him away from Swang Tin to face him, and snarled, Kid, if you're useless, stay home quietly. Don't come out and be an eyesore to the rest of us. Lu Fang didn't get angry at being grabbed. He just calmly and quietly said to the man, let go. Tuan Quang did let go, but with an incredibly obnoxious expression. He laughed until tears came to his eyes. He told me to let go. Did you all hear that? This piece of trash told me to let go. Lu Fang didn't say much. He waited for the man to finish his rant, then decisively clenched his fist and swung, punching him square in the face. The man was instantly knocked out on the floor, his face deformed by the blow. Tuan Quang lay there unconscious with no chance to run his mouth and insult anyone else, much to the astonishment of the onlookers. What? Lu Fang walked over to Swang Tin, held up one finger and said to him, I'm testing again. Seeing his decisiveness, Kang Tu and Tu Kim behind him jumped up and down, cheering for Lu Fang together. Nice one. Just as things were getting exciting, a pair of slender legs and silver high heels appeared walking toward the testing area. A girl with a stunning figure and long, fiery red hair waved her hand. What's all the noise? Who was fighting just now? Have you all forgotten the rule against fighting in the guild hall? Tufai stepped forward, beautiful and powerful, looking at the clueless men causing trouble. Are you all looking for a beating up? The moment the men saw it was her, their attitudes changed. Every one of them looked at her like they were seeing fine wine and delicious meat, their expressions full of lust. Kang Tu also looked on with admiration. Tu Kim on his shoulder also stretched up to get a better look at her. It's Lady Tufai. Lu Fang also had an infatuated look on his face, his eyes unable to leave her as he thought to himself, so captivating. Just then, Tufai crossed her arms, standing there coolly as she looked toward Lu Fang and asked, Are you the one causing trouble? He closed his eyes, pointed at the unconscious Tuan Quang on the ground, and said he's the one who started it. We were just acting in self-defense. But Swang Tin quickly ran over and whispered something in Tufai's ear. Tufai looked at the man on the ground, many of his teeth knocked out, foaming at the mouth from the punch. No fighting spirit and no magic, yet he wants to apply for mercenary status. I've never heard of such a thing before. Hearing her words, Lu Fang remained calm. He held up one finger and said to Tufai, To become a mercenary, the important thing is to have strength. I think I've already proven that a little. Hearing your confident words softened her gaze slightly. Tufai seductively brought her pinky to her lips and said, That's right, strength is what matters most. With strength you have everything. With that, she gently turned to face Lu Fang, ready to challenge him. If the testing stone can't measure your strength, then let me do it. Lu Fang looked at the beautiful girl opposite him, his face grim, as he questioned Tufai's beckoning gesture. You'll test me. Tufai tossed her long, fiery red hair to one side, her face full of confidence as she told him, If you can beat me, I'll grant you mercenary status. If you lose, then get the hell out. I hate useless trash who only talk big but have no real power. Hearing Tufai's rather disrespectful words, Lu Fang shifted his feet slightly. Fine, you're the manager here after all. He looked straight at the woman before him, his gaze unwavering as he asked, But didn't you just say fighting was forbidden here? Tufai lowered her stance, slightly frowning at him, with an annoyed expression as she reminded him. Here I am, the rules. The onlookers quickly pulled Tuan Quang back while Kang Tu stood dazed, blood trickling from his nose. Lady Tufai is so cool. What do I do? Logically and emotionally, I should support Brother Lu, but I'm a loyal fan of Lady Tufai. I don't want her to lose. This is such a tough choice. Tu Kim on his shoulder immediately puffed out his chest, spouting some philosophy at Kang Tu. How can a man be so indecisive, unable to distinguish friend from foe? A man must follow his heart's true desire. But his lecherous expression gave him away, his eyes full of absolute admiration as he gazed dreamily at Tufai, startling Kang Tu. Lady Tufai will be victorious. Go Lady Tufai, go. Hey, whose side are you on anyway? Tufai gave Lu Fang time to prepare. Seeing him grasp the hilt of the sword on his back, she asked, ready, ready. Receiving his answer, Tufai quickly launched the first attack, aiming to seize the initiative. Wielding a small dagger, she instantly appeared before Lu Fang, thrusting accurately at the man who was still standing straight. Kang Tu cried out in alarm and Tu Kim covered both his eyes, not daring to watch the supposedly bloody scene. Watch out, that's Lady Tufai's signature surprise attack. She flashed past, slicing through what looked like Lu Fang's body, but unfortunately, it split into 3 pieces, looking more like an afterimage than a real person. Tufai looked back in shock, only now realizing she had missed. The man had jumped to the side completely unscathed. He managed to dodge it. She quickly changed direction, her eyes flashing as she unleashed another slash, but once again it only hit Lu Fang's afterimage. Tufai watched him, his entire body glowing with a green aura, moving with astonishing speed. She bit her lip. He could effortlessly dodge her attacks. Just how strong was he? She calmed herself, chanting a spell around her body. Her hair floated into the air. To defeat him, she would have to use that technique. Lu Fang frowned as he dodged another of Tufai's strikes. He thought to himself, an illusion. Her speed seems to have increased dramatically. In a flash, she was back in her original position, her eyes still fixed on him, but the fighting spirit around her had changed significantly. Lu Fang carefully observed Tufai. A massive amount of energy emanated from her body. It seemed she was using some kind of secret art to boost her speed. He wouldn't hold back anymore, nor would he be blinded by her captivating beauty. This crazy woman is willing to do anything to win. I have to stop her. At that moment she began to channel more and more magic. Her eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and then with a whoosh, she lunged forward, attacking with a seemingly dangerous magical technique. But somehow Lu Fang stopped her. He slid close to Tufai, turning the hilt of his sword toward her chest. Tufai froze, looking down at the sword's hilt just inches from her body. Lu Fang looked at her with a frown, his expression serious as he told her, stop. Is it really necessary to use a technique that harms your own body? Tufai was surprised. Her beautiful eyes stared at Lu Fang as she asked, you saw through it all. He stood up facing Tufai as he listened to her calmly and gracefully accept her defeat. I lost. Lu Fang sheathed his sword behind his back. He tilted his head slightly and said to Tufai, I guess I can get my mercenary status now. Just then Tufai leaned in, getting a little closer to him, and seductively told Lu Fang the answer. Of course. But besides mercenary status, is there anything else you desire? The scene changes to Tufai's room. She sat on a large chair, her long legs propped up on a table with a golden statue, and asked Mr. Lu, it's just the two of us here. If you have any requests, just say the word. Lu Fang didn't understand what she was getting at. He crossed his arms, looking at Tufai in confusion. Requests? What kind of requests? Then he tried to think seriously, carefully replaying her words from start to finish. This woman was so fierce just a moment ago, and now she's striking such a seductive pose. Something is definitely up. Lu Fang tilted his head, glancing at her before casually waving his hand and restating his purpose. I only came here today for my mercenary status. I'm not interested in anything else. Tufai lightly touched her index finger to her lips, her beautiful moist eyes gazing at him. Not interested in me either. Lu Fang placed both hands on the table, a playful smile in his eyes as he teased her back. We're complete strangers. How could I be interested in you? Done with the jokes. Lu Fang's expression turned serious as he returned to his main goal. He prompted Lady Tufai to keep her word, grant me my mercenary status. Tufai didn't expect him to be so serious. Her eyes showed a hint of annoyance, but she too became serious. Fine. You've passed the assessment. Lu Fang was quite surprised to hear her announcement. He recoiled in shock, looking at Tufai. What assessment was that? She slammed her hand on the table with a loud bang, startling Lu Fang's fragile little heart. She stood up, leaning over to stare at Lu Fang opposite her. I want to invite you to join our night order. Your night order, what's that? Tufai raised her hand, her voice confident, as she began to explain from the beginning. Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Tufai, one of the heirs to the mercenary guild. Every heir has their own mercenary group. The night order is the group I founded myself, and I need a powerful aide like you. She also made her opinion of Lu Fang very clear, which left him a bit surprised as he asked in confusion. Your character and strength are both impressive. If you join, you can name any conditions you want. Did you recruit the other members of the night order like this? Hearing his question, Tufai's expression turned sour. She snorted coldly. The others were just a bunch of scoundrels who only lusted after my beauty. They wouldn't listen to my orders at all, so I fired them. She placed her hands on her hips, her body's curves undulating, but her voice was filled with authority. If you agree to join, the position of commander will be yours. Besides a fixed monthly salary, you'll also get priority in choosing missions and their rewards. But just as Tufai finished listing the position's privileges, Lu Fang awkwardly scratched his head and told her, sorry, I'm not interested. Why? The conditions I'm offering are very generous. He secretly thought about the position Tufai offered, but didn't say it out loud to avoid offending her. Commander of a night order, only a fool would want that job. Besides, I have more important things to do. Lu Fang cleared his throat, smiling as he glanced at her reaction, then made an excuse. My apologies, I've already joined the Xiniet mercenary group. I don't want to switch groups right now. Hearing this, Tufai gritted her teeth in anger, but she couldn't say anything more. She knew she couldn't persuade this man, so she slammed a badge onto the table and said, Alright, I won't force you. Here is your rank 7 mercenary badge. Tufai rested her hand beside the badge, her expression still tense as she explained further. Your strength can't be measured by the testing stone. According to the rules, your abilities can only be assessed based on the rank of your examiner. Take the badge. Right now I'm only rank 7, so I can only give you a rank 7 badge. Lu Fang picked up the badge, examining it carefully before smiling happily at Tufai. Rank 7 is enough. With that, he turned and left without a moment's hesitation. As he neared the door, he waved to Tu Fai. Thanks, I'm leaving now. Left alone in the room, Tu Fai clenched her fists in frustration as she watched him go. Lu Feng, I'll remember you. Just you wait, I'll definitely make you join my night order. The scene shifts to a rather grand house, nestled quietly in a forest. Kong Tu was banging on the door, loudly calling for the people inside, while Lu Feng stood silently behind him with a smile. Anifat boy Thap, where are you guys? Come out, we've become a C-rank mercenary group, come out and celebrate. But only silence answered him. Kong Tu was speechless, his anger rising to its peak. Those guys must be secretly drinking behind my back again. Unable to wait any longer, he kicked open the cumbersome wooden door and stormed inside, not even bothering to close it. How rude. But when they entered the house, they both froze on the spot at the scene inside. This is bad. The furniture was in disarray, things were broken, and on the wall a large message was scrawled. We have them. Hak Tho. Lu Feng and Kang Tu stared at the last two words of the message on the wall. Hak Tho. He repeated the name, his brow furrowing deeper. Then Lu Feng bit his lip in indignation. Hak Tho, how dare they be so arrogant? His hands clenched into fists so tight that his knuckles cracked. Lu Feng turned around his aura, startling both Kang Tu and Tu Kim. I'm going to see this Hak Tho. In that instant, a hand slammed against the doorframe, blocking the way out. Kong Tu blocked Lu Feng's path, trying to stop him and warn him of the danger. Brother Lu, don't go. The Hoang Tuong mercenary group is very powerful. Hak Tho is a peak rank 8 expert. They've definitely set up an ambush. He was sweating, and despite being extremely worried for his teammates, he still tried to calm Lu Feng down. Boy Thap and the others have been captured. I can't let Brother Lu go to his death. I have to stop him. Going like this is just walking into a trap. Hearing Kong Tu's words, Lu Feng's fists clenched even tighter, revealing the fury in his heart. Lu Feng looked at him. Along with Tu Kim perched on his shoulder, he asked Kong Tu a question. So we're just going to leave Boy Thap and the others? No way. We have to save them. Kong Tu tried to hold him back, his voice more urgent than ever. I'll go to the enforcement squad. The enforcement squad will definitely bring us justice. Lu Feng and Tu Kim fell silent. He lowered his head, bit his lip tightly, and closed his eyes to think for a moment before looking at him calmly. To Tu Kim's surprise, he agreed with what Kong Tu said. All right, I'll listen to you, brother Kong Tu. It's getting late. We'll find the enforcement squad tomorrow. Giving up just like that, hearing him agree, Kong Tu patted his shoulder encouragingly, though his expression was no better than Lu Feng's mood. In Notbat, Lock City, killing is strictly forbidden. Even if Hak Tho captured Boy Thap and the others, he wouldn't dare to kill them. I hope so, at least. He advised the other to be calm and offered encouragement, but deep down Kong Tu was also extremely worried. He lowered his eyelids and said sadly, yeah, I hope so. Then Kang Tu pulled Lu Feng and Tu Kim away from their house and into town. Let's go get something to eat. It's been a rough day, everyone's tired. The little dragon's eyes lit up at the mention of food. He immediately forgot everything that had just happened. What are we eating? What are we eating? Kong Tu looked at Tu Kim's drooling, starry-eyed expression and asked him, Brother Lu, what do you want to eat? Meat. Let's eat meat. He quickly changed the subject, looking at the excited Tu Kim on his shoulder and saying, all right, I'll let you taste my cooking. But only Lu Feng noticed something strange. He looked at him silently, saying nothing. Night fell and the moon rose high, illuminating the world in place of the daytime. Sunday Lu Feng watched Kang Tu and Tu Kim leaning against a wall, fast asleep after a full meal. Boy Thap. Anifap. Please be okay. Then he took his sword and quietly left Kong Tu's group's small house alone. He arrived before the luxurious headquarters of the Hoang Tuong Mercenary Group. Hoang Tuong Mercenary Group headquarters. Someone was already waiting right in front of the gate. The moment Lu Feng arrived, two dark figures leaped down from above and attacked him. He was caught in their ambush. They shouted as they all pointed their weapons at Lu Feng, but he had anticipated this. He calmly fought them off with his bare hands. Just as brother Kang Tu said they have an ambush. He single-handedly took down all the grunts lying in wait, striking each one on the neck with a single chop, not one blow more. 3 ambushers, 3 chops, and they all collapsed, lying sprawled on the ground. Lu Feng looked around. As he lifted his foot to continue, he felt something sticky under his shoe. He looked down at the ground beneath his feet, then noticed something unusual with surprise. Right on the ground, a magic circle lit up, and he had accidentally stood right in the middle of it. Magic surged from within the circle, rising in waves to attack Lu Feng. He quickly leaped high into the air, dodging just in time. Lu Feng flew up frowning as he looked down and thought, this magic appeared so suddenly. The mage must be hiding nearby. In the sky, he scanned the area, searching for the mage who set the trap. Soon he spotted the hiding place. Over there. In midair, Lu Feng reached behind his back, drawing his sword with a cold gaze. He brought the sword down on the tree where the mage was hiding. The tree was instantly split in two, and the mage was sent flying by the force of the blow. Lu Feng landed on the ground, his body steady the moment his toes touched down. He held the holy sword in his hand, glanced around once more, and then spoke tauntingly. Hak Tho, you only dare to send your lackeys to their deaths. He swung his sword behind his back, glancing towards a direction deep in the forest with a mocking smile. Is this all you've got? Lu Feng stood defiantly in the clearing, sword in hand, as everyone else retreated. He fixed his gaze on the wide-open city gate. A horrifying creaking sound echoed. Your target is me, so come on. Let's have a proper fight. Weapon in hand, Lu Feng resolutely took step after step towards the gate as the wind howled. He walked while looking around to observe, but all he saw was empty space. Lu Feng was quite annoyed with how Hak Tho was hiding and not daring to show his face, so he yelled out, Hak Tho, I'm here, where are you hiding? As soon as he finished speaking from the distance near a rotten tree, a familiar voice slowly spoke up. I'm not hiding. I've been right in front of you the whole time. Suddenly, beneath him, a puddle of slimy mud-like substance appeared. Lifting one leg high, Lu Feng's expression changed, his eyes filled with anger. From within that slimy mud puddle, a mocking voice called out to him. As expected, you're still so naive, daring to walk in so arrogantly without a shred of caution. From one surprise to another, a group of men appeared high above, weapons aimed directly at him. I know you're very strong, but now all you can do is watch yourself die. The whole group laughed smugly at Lu Fang's miserable state. Down below, he could only grit his teeth and restrain himself, not wanting to be buried by a mere mud puddle. Lu Fang swung his sword wildly. Damn it, this swamp must have been created by Hak Tho. I have to get out of here quickly. It's useless. If you can't hit my real body, no matter how you attack, it's pointless. His slashes skimmed across the surface of the mud puddle as he searched for something. After a moment of careful searching, Lu Fang gritted his teeth in extreme frustration. Where the hell is his real body hiding? Suddenly, the group on the wall spoke up. They all began to attack him, firing arrows. Unable to react in time, Lu Fang could only use his sword to shield himself as best as he could. As if by a sixth sense, noticing the complete silence around him, he slowly lowered his hands and opened his eyes to look around. The wall that was crowded with people just moments ago was now completely empty. Lu Fang looked on in confusion. Where did you all go? Seeing that no one was attacking anymore, an angry voice from the mud puddle commanded again. Where is everyone? Fire the arrows. From a distance, a long, sturdy leather whip appeared. It shot forward as fast as the wind. High above the one wielding the whip was none other than Tu Fai. Lu Fang, catch. The rather familiar voice made him widen his eyes and look up. That voice sounds familiar. Lu Fang's hand quickly and tightly gripped the whip, not missing by an inch. With her dedicated support, he lifted both his feet out of that mud puddle. Seeing Lu Fang about to escape its control, the mud puddle transformed into a mudman. It opened its mouth wide. Where do you think you're going? Then the mudman leaped to its feet, its palm wide open, aiming straight for him. Seeing its hand about to close in, Lu Fang raised his sword, preparing to defend himself. Who said I was running? As he finished speaking, the sharp blade of his sword swung down, splitting the mudman's body into multiple pieces, but it seemed to have no effect on it. In just a few seconds, the mudman's body reformed. Suspended in the air, Lu Fang was stunned, bewildered for a few seconds by its unexpectedly fast recovery. In a flash, his feet touched the ground thanks to Tu Fi's help. Still a bit dazed, he held the whip tightly, raised his head, and looked towards where she was standing. Lu Fang looked back at the group that had tried to attack him earlier, now lying unconscious on the ground. Did you do all this? Seeing him staring blankly, Tu Fi put her hands on her hips, looked down at Lu Fang and explained. A powerful sleeping potion. They were all out in an instant. Below the city wall, the mudman rushed forward with its fists, intending to attack them. Down below, it was using all its strength, launching itself high into the air. The mud fragments that made up its body continuously attacked the two of them, but they remained unaffected. Although it was split into small pieces, it reformed quickly. Seeing how difficult the mudman was to deal with, Lu Fang became furious. He gritted his teeth and interrogated it. Every time it's cut apart, it immediately reforms. This mudman seems to be just a summon. Where is Hak Tho hiding? How am I supposed to deal with him? Hearing his name, Tu Fi turned her head slightly and offered a suggestion. Hak Tho is hiding in the swamp. In the swamp, he's nearly invincible. But if you destroy that swamp, he'll be helpless. Hearing her proposed plan, he widened his eyes and asked again. Destroy the swamp. Standing on the city wall, Tu Fi stretched out her arm, and ice-like orbs shot past Lu Fang, heading downwards. In a flash, they transformed into sharp ice shards that pierced straight into the mudman's body. In just a few seconds, it stood motionless, becoming an ice statue for the two to admire. Seeing her amazing skill, he widened his eyes, his voice full of praise. So strong. What was that? Tu Fi looked over at Lu Fang with a fond gaze and said mockingly, Of course, it's a little gift I specially prepared for Hak Tho. Not wanting to waste time, Tu Fi stood on the wall, spread her arms wide and commanded Hak Tho, If you don't show yourself now, you'll become an ice statue too. As soon as she finished her demand, a hand broke through the ice from below. The thick layer of ice was shattered by Hak Tho. He emerged from below, slowly moving his body out of the ice and advancing forward. With breath full of cold, icy mist, his sharp face and interrogating voice rang out. Who in the world are you? Tu Fi didn't want to waste words on someone like Hak Tho, so she just answered curtly. Who I am doesn't matter. Besides, your opponent isn't me. As soon as she finished her introduction, Lu Fang leaped down from above, sword in hand, heading straight for Hak Tho below. Hak Tho was still fearless, his voice confident and challenging. You think freezing the swamp will make me fear you? Seeing his attitude, Lu Fang didn't want to talk much either. He gripped the hilt of his sword with both hands and lunged forward. Enough talk. Time to die. An unexpected scene occurred. Hak Tho, who was so boastful just moments ago, was now kneeling on the ground. He bowed his head endlessly, begging before Lu Fang's sharp blade. Friend, spare my life. We can negotiate anything. His sudden change in behavior left Lu Fang bewildered, stunned for a few seconds. You even know the art of changing faces, huh? Hak Tho raised his head, grabbing the blade that was close to his neck, his eyes filled with adoration. Today was my fault. I apologize. As he spoke, he opened his palm and gold coins poured out. Whether you need money or women, just say the word. All this money on me is yours. Lu Fang knew he had the advantage. He clearly demanded that Hak Tho release Boythap's group. Freed from Lu Fang's sharp blade, he jumped to his feet, nodding. No problem, no problem. I have something even more valuable here. From behind his back, Hak Tho pulled out a red scroll. Inside, a blue magic circle faintly glowed. Go to hell. Betrayed and attacked by him, Lu Fang's eyes widened, his face filled with annoyance. Ignoring Hak Tho's ultimate gale speed technique, Lu Fang moved like the wind appearing behind him, as if he had a third sense. Hak Tho glanced back and panicked when he saw him. You. When did you get behind me? He had already lunged forward, plunging his sword through Hak Tho's chest. Lu Fang answered succinctly, you don't need to know. And just like that, he ended his own life for breaking his word. His body fell back onto the cold ice, forever gone. Watching his every move from the city wall, Tu Fai praised him endlessly. Nice moves. Looking up, Lu Feng still didn't forget to investigate her identity. Who are you? Seeing him keep asking, Tu Fai leaped down from above. Don't be so tense, it's me. As she removed the mask covering half her face, she began to chide Lu Feng. It's a good thing I arrived in time or you would have been in big trouble. Her identity was now clear. Tu Fai rushed forward like an arrow running towards him with open arms. Little bro, big sis saved your life. How are you going to repay me? Gripping his sword tightly, Lu Feng remained on guard, asking in confusion. Why are you here? Why did you help me? Without thinking, she pointed a finger at him and said with a laugh, Of course it's because I've taken a liking to you. Hack though is treacherous and deceitful. I wouldn't want the commander I worked so hard to find to die in vain. Facing Tafi, Lu Feng raised his sword to block her questioning. I haven't agreed to join your night order yet. Seeing his uncooperative attitude, she thought for a few seconds and then said, Fine. If you're going to be so heartless, let's just settle the bill. A long list of items Tafi used to help Lu Feng was clearly itemized. Special sleeping potion 200 gold coins per bottle, I used 5. Magic orbs for freezing 100 gold coins each, I used 30. And my appearance fee is 2000 gold coins. Please pay up. Her move was so unexpected that he was left speechless, his jaw dropped as he shouted. Wait, your appearance fee. Hearing this, Tafi brought her face close to Lu Feng's and recalled. That's right. I'm a rank 7 mercenary and the head of the mercenary guild. My appearance fee is very expensive. The total is 8000. I can give you a discount to 7000. With a decisive move, she pressed the paper bill against him and demanded, The bill is right here. You can calculate it yourself. Holding the bill in his hand, Lu Feng slumped slightly and sighed in exasperation. I don't have that much money. Knowing she had him in a difficult position, Tafi, as if prepared beforehand, took out a piece of paper. Then you can work for me to pay off your debt. Be the commander of my night order. Seeing her constantly backing him into a corner, he let out a long, tired sigh. However, not wanting to be shackled, Lu Feng raised his head and declared, I'll figure out a way to get the money, but I don't want to join the night order. Tafi chuckled at his words, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear as she spoke. It's all right. We have plenty of time. A carriage stopped in front of a building. Lu Feng and Tu Fai stood there talking. The Hoang Tuang mercenary group. Hak To used a hypnosis spell on all your friends. They don't know anything. You can just take them back. Facing him, she held out her palm, gently reminding him of what just happened. I'll take care of the aftermath here. Of course the fee will be added to your bill. All right. Hearing this, Lu Feng looked at her with a fond expression, his voice full of gratitude. Thank you for this time. I used to think you were that kind of woman, but I didn't expect you to be. Not so bad after all. Hearing this, Tu Fai immediately crossed her arms, her interrogating tone activating. That kind of woman. What kind? Caught off guard by the question, Lu Feng scratched his head in embarrassment. You know that kind. Without a hint of anger, she closed her eyes and replied, It doesn't matter. A lot of people think of me that way. She didn't stop there. With a confident look, Tu Fai put her hands on her hips and declared, To stand firm in the male-dominated world of mercenaries, you naturally have to face such slander. I'm used to it. Seeing her attitude, he was filled with admiration and immediately comforted her. There's a saying in my hometown, the more slander you can endure, the more praise you will receive. Tu Fai, miss, you're amazing. Tu Fai's eyes widened. She was a bit surprised to hear such praise from Lu Feng. The more slander you can endure, the more praise you will receive. Tu Fai's entire face turned pink. She shyly expressed her gratitude. Thank you for the compliment. You're the first person to understand me like this. Seeing Tu Fai's expression, he scratched his head and chuckled softly. Don't mention it. In return for his appreciation, she offered Lu Feng a special favor. In that case, I'll give you a gift. I can take 1000 gold coins off your bill. At the mention of money, his eyes lit up like headlights, brighter than the stars in the sky. Really, my hometown actually has many more sayings like that. If I say a few more, can I get another discount? Standing beside him, Tu Fai warned him beforehand. Don't say any more. Even if you do, there won't be any more discounts. And so Lu Feng activated his pleading mode, his voice echoing so loudly it disturbed the horses grazing nearby. Just one more discount, please. I really can't reduce it any further. After teasing her relentlessly for a while, they both fell silent, looked at each other and burst out laughing, the atmosphere incredibly cheerful. Suddenly, Lu Feng extended an arm forward, his palm facing Tu Fai. It's a pleasure to meet you, Tu Fai. His unexpected action made the cheeks on her face suddenly flush red. Without hesitation, Tu Fai raised her hand, a handshake to show their mutual respect. It's a pleasure to meet you too, Lu Feng. After a few seconds of thought, a question popped into her head. So are we friends now? Lu Feng didn't hesitate, nodding in agreement. Yes, we're friends. The next morning, the sunlit sky shone down on the roof of a familiar building. Kang Tu kept his eyes closed. Behind him, Kama, Nifop, and Boythop were sound asleep. Brother Lu, tell me the truth. Did you go to the Hoang Tuang mercenary group's place? Lu Feng stood by the door, waving his left hand back and forth. Not at all. I didn't go anywhere last night. Boythap's group was brought here by carriage this morning. He cast a mischievous glance towards Boythap's unconscious group. Either way, they're back now. We need to figure out how to wake them up. Kang Tu left Lu Feng there to watch over them, then turned and left through the door. That's right, they were hit with a deep sleep spell. I'll go get a mage to dispel it. You stay here and watch the house. I'll be back in a bit. Alone in the room, he recalled being stopped by Hak Tho's mudman. Just as Hak Tho said, my combat experience is still insufficient. I need more real-life practice. Just thinking about it made his face break out in a sweat. Lu Feng stroked his chin, trying to find a solution. But where can I find someone to train with who is both free and can take a beating? Train with. An idea sparked in his mind. Lu Feng immediately ran off to put it into action. That's right, I can try this. Using his inner energy and a learned skill in a flash, an exact replica of Lu Fang appeared. Mirror image clone. Looking at his own clone after a moment of observation, he clicked his tongue in approval. It looks exactly like me. With someone to train with standing opposite him, Lu Fang immediately ordered the clone, "Attack me." The command was executed instantly. The clone's hand shot towards his face. But with my current power, I can only maintain the clone for 3 minutes. It seems in a real fight I can only use this at a critical moment to catch the opponent off guard. As Lu Fang thought, he grabbed the clone's arm with one hand. The clone only has about a third of my strength. The advantage is that it's obedient and not afraid of getting hurt. It can barely be considered a training partner. Then he cocked his arm, aiming his elbow at the clone's face. A punch landed squarely on its face. While he was engrossed in training, Kong Tu suddenly rushed in from outside, yelling Lu Fang's name. "Brother Lu, something's happened. The Hoang Tuang mercenary group vanished overnight. The whole city is talking about it." Seeing two identical Lu Fangs before him, his eyes widened in panic. Brother Louis Kong Tu quickly rubbed his eyes hard, trying to calm himself. Am I still dreaming? As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Lu Fang standing beside him. "Brother Kang Tu, what's wrong?" He was stunned once again. "I must still be dreaming." Remembering the issue from before, Kong Tu didn't hesitate, and announced with his mouth wide open. "The Hoang Tuang mercenary group." Everyone in it disappeared overnight. As soon as he finished speaking, a pair of feet slowly advanced. The sound of footsteps echoed around. Attracted by the sound, he instinctively turned his head and demanded loudly, "Who's there?" A person in a black cloak walked boldly towards them. The person's appearance made Kong Tu think non-stop. This feeling of pressure is immense. This person is really strong. Without many words, the black-cloaked person made a demand to Lu Fang. "Lu Fang, I know what you did. Come with me." Being ordered around by a stranger, he stood there stunned for a few seconds. Seeing the appearance of the black-cloaked person, Kong Tu frowned in confusion and asked loudly, "Who are you? What business do you have with Brother Lu?" Seeing Kong Tu being overly nosy, the person bluntly demanded, "Kong Tu, this has nothing to do with you. If you don't want the Xiniet mercenary group to disappear from this day forward, don't interfere." Insulted by the black-cloaked person's attitude, he frowned and gritted his teeth in anger. "You!" To stop Kong Tu's anger, Lu Fang patted him firmly on the shoulder from behind. "This person came for me, so I should be the one to handle this." The unexpected request from him left Kong Tu stunned. "Brother Lu." Not stopping there, Lu Fang leaned in close to his ear and whispered a few things. "This person doesn't have good intentions. If we fight here, I'm afraid it will affect Boy Thap's group." The conversation between the three was being observed by a bird in a tree. "I'll go with him. Even if he wants to cause trouble with my strength, escaping won't be difficult." The black-cloaked person didn't want to waste time and immediately urged him. "Are you done talking?" After they finished talking, he sheathed his sword behind his back and instructed the two, "I'm leaving now. You two wait here for my return." Tiu Kim, in his small transformed body, frantically shouted, "Lu Fang, you have to come back early. You promised to take me to the market today." Lu Fang bent down slightly, smiling as he gently patted Tiu Kim's head with affection. "No problem." On the side, Kang Tu tried to suppress his emotions, patting Lu Fang's shoulder and reminding him, "Brother Lu, you must be careful." Lu Fang was extremely grateful. "I will be." A while later, he and the black-cloaked person had arrived in a grassland-like area where the wind blew ceaselessly. Lu Fang's feet skidded across the green grass as he dug his heels in trying to stop himself. The black-cloaked figure then turned his head to look at Lu Fang, who was chasing him from behind. "Any further and we'll be in Beastman territory." Hearing this, and with his curiosity piqued, Lu Fang shouted from behind, "Who in the world are you?" Without any hesitation, the figure slowly removed the cloak he had been wearing. It was none other than him behind that mysterious black mask. A familiar face. "I am Ao Hach, the captain of the law enforcement team of the Sun Never Sets Fortress." Ao Hach's introduction stunned Lu Fang for a few seconds. "The captain of the law enforcement team, what do you want with me?" Without hiding anything, he chuckled and stated his purpose. "Little brother, your strength is extraordinary. I wonder which grandmaster on the continent is your teacher. How about we become friends?" Lu Fang remained cautious. He lowered his head, thinking, flattering me out of nowhere. This can't be good. Is he trying to dig into my background? After a moment, Lu Fang smirked and replied to Ao Hach, "My apologies. My master hates that I'm not skilled enough, and forbids me from revealing his great name to the outside world." Seeing it was difficult to get information from someone as clever as Lu Fang, his tone dropped. "If you don't want to say, I won't force you. Let's talk about something else." Ao Hach's face twisted with anger. "Were you the one behind what happened to the Wild Fantasy mercenary group?" The sudden question left Lu Fang completely bewildered. He froze for a few seconds, then composed himself, asking back with an annoyed look, "Captain Ao Hach, why would you say that?" Standing on the grassy plains, Ao Hach began his analysis. "The Wild Fantasy mercenary group vanished overnight. Other than being wiped out, I can't think of a more logical reason. And recently, among those who had conflicts with them, you are the most suspicious." Lu Fang immediately understood the issue and posed a direct question. "Captain Ao Hach, everything requires evidence. You say I'm the culprit, so where's your proof?" Ao Hach didn't seem to care about the question. He placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and slowly drew it. In a flash, a sharp blade was unsheathed and swung towards Lu Fang. "Proof. You work very cleanly. It's true I found no clues at the scene, but no evidence doesn't mean I can't convict you." Then he pointed the tip of his sword decisively at Lu Fang. "All I have to do is kill you. Whether you're the real culprit or not, you'll take the blame for all of it." Witnessing Ao Hach's actions, Lu Fang's voice dripped with contempt. "Captain Ao Hach, as the head of the law enforcement team, is this how you uphold justice?" Lu Fang then lowered his head, his voice dropping as he admonished him. No wonder the Wild Fantasy mercenary group could run rampant in the Sun Never Sets Fortress for so many years. Ao Hach heard him but seemed to ignore it, smirking smugly. "Uphold justice. Whoever has the bigger fist is justice." If you can't beat me, then I am obviously the side of justice. Staring at the sharp blade, Lu Fang calmly made a proposal. Before we fight, I want to confirm something. Are you a peak 9th tier expert? Aohach didn't hide it. Raising his sword, he smiled confidently. That's right. I am indeed a peak 9th tier. What are you scared? Drawing the saber from his back, Lu Fang's face darkened as he muttered, good. If I can beat you, then I can finally get my revenge. Not wanting to waste any more time, Aohach rushed towards him with his sword. Enough useless talk. Make your move. A cold slash swept past Lu Fang. Luckily, his reflexes were quick, and he neatly dodged it using gale speed. With lightning-fast speed, Lu Fang instantly appeared behind Aohach, raising his saber high. Aohach's reaction was swift. He spun around sword in hand to meet the saber's edge. The force of the impact was so strong it created sparks, illuminating Lu Fang's wide-eyed face. Knowing he was in danger, Lu Fang swung his saber forward with all his might to block Aohach's attack. Even though he had attacked with his full power, Lu Fang's counterattack still made his footing slip slightly. Holding his saber and looking at Aohach, Lu Fang broke into a light sweat. His power is terrifying. It was the same for Aohach. He lowered his head in frustration but still praised Lu Fang. To think you could withstand a full-powered strike from me. Your abilities have surpassed my imagination. As he finished speaking, Aohach looked at the weapon in his hand in disbelief. Furthermore, your saber is no ordinary item, but it seems you haven't been able to unleash its true power yet. What a pity. He then looked at Lu Fang's mysterious black saber. It's truly strange. The power you use is neither battle chi nor magic. Without hesitating, Aohach charged forward with his sword, laughing with excitement as he moved. That sudden disappearing technique of yours was also extremely special. I'm getting more and more interested in you. He didn't hesitate, swiping his sword past Lu Fang's face in a swift and clean motion. But something unexpected happened. Lu Fang's body seemed weightless as he leaped behind Aohach. Furious, Aohach slammed his sword into the grassy ground, sending a powerful slash straight towards Lu Fang. Lu Fang had to retreat slightly to dodge the attack. Watching the situation unfold, Lu Fang's jaw dropped as he worried internally. Such a fast attack, I have to conserve my remaining internal energy. For this move I can only meet force with force. Lu Fang quickly used his saber to shield his body, gritting his teeth to defend. Suddenly, Aohach's blade stopped its assault and plunged deep into the ground. He stood opposite Lu Fang, the wind whistling as he spoke emphatically, I understand now. Aohach's eyes widened as he analyzed how Lu Fang did it. You were able to take that last strike of mine because you have a way to instantly increase your power. His words made Lu Fang break out in a cold sweat, completely shocked. How could he see through it? Not stopping there, Aohach lowered his head and analyzed further. And that strange movement technique of yours, while effective, seems like it can't be used at will. It must have a limit on its uses, or consumes a massive amount of energy. As he finished speaking, Aohach's entire body began to radiate a blazing red fire. It seems I wasn't wrong. Your power, though, strange, isn't that hard to figure out. But your fighting skills are nothing like mine. A suit of fiery red armor enveloped his body, burning brightly. The warm-up is over. I'm going all out now. Watching from the opposite side, Lu Fang was dumbfounded, his mouth agape. With the mighty armor now on his body, Aohach introduced it. This is something only a peak 9th tier expert possesses. Battle Chi armor. He looked at Lu Fang and didn't forget to warn him. You should use your full strength. Otherwise you will really die. Raising the sharp saber in his hand, Lu Fang showed no fear. He stepped forward and declared, fine by me. Let's have a real fight then. Back where Boythap's group was unconscious, Tu Kim lay beside a pile of chicken bones, sighing, the last chicken leg. He looked at the fragrant roasted chicken thigh in front of him and squirmed. The chicken legs are almost gone. Why isn't Lu Fang back yet? Suddenly a figure peeked through the doorway from outside. It was No Kai, his body wrapped in white bandages covering his ghastly wounds. The captain and everyone else are gone. It must be related to that accursed mercenary group. If I hadn't been hiding outside treating my wounds last night, I'd be a goner by now. He held a sharp knife in his hand, a plan already formed in his mind. Ngo Kai pushed the door open and slowly advanced towards Tu Kim. While Kong Tu and Lu Fang are away, I'll kill this kid and Boythap's group to avenge the captain. Tu Kim, oblivious to the danger behind him, was still focused on his food. I have to eat this last chicken leg slowly, but the food was too tempting, and Tu Kim gobbled it all down just as Ngo Kai raised his knife to attack. An unexpected event occurred. A terrified scream echoed from inside the room. Ngo Kai was already dead, lying flat on the cold ground with blood streaming from his head. Beside him, Tu Kim was sobbing his heart out. What happened? Where is Lu Fang? Seeing Tafai appear at the door, Tu Kim's eyes lit up. Pretty big sister. She stood outside staring at the scene. Tu Kim bashfully explained, I don't know. I was eating meat when he showed up and tried to stab me with a knife. Looking at Nu Kai's bloody and miserable state on the ground, Tafai touched her chin, puzzled. And then what? Who hit him? Was it Lu Fang? He quickly shook his head, wringing his hands together, as he recounted the story in a guilty tone. It wasn't Lu Fang. Someone called him away. I'm the one who hit this jerk. I just put my hands up to block a few times and he ended up like this. Hearing his answer, she looked unconvinced, staring at Tu Kim for a long moment. How could a little kid beat Ngo Kai? He looks like a child with zero combat power. Suddenly, an empty wine bottle lying on the floor caught Tu Fi's eye, sparking an idea. Perhaps Ngo Kai was just unlucky, tripped on the wine bottle and fell. This kid must think he's the one who knocked him out. Dismissing the unnecessary details, she looked at him and asked about Lu Fang. Forget him. You just said someone called Lu Fang away. Who was it? Tu Kim didn't hesitate and told her about Aohach's earlier appearance. The person who called Lu Fang away was wearing a black cloak with a sun and scales of justice on the back. Hearing his description, Tafai's eyes suddenly widened, her face filled with fear. What could it? Could it be him? Back on the grassy plains, Lu Fang and Ao Hak were locked in combat. After a while, unable to withstand each other's power, they separated. Gripping his sharp saber, Lu Fang clenched his jaw, his face already showing signs of fatigue. He's too strong. Is this the power of a peak 9th tier? It seems I'm still struggling a bit against a peak 9th tier. Although his body was weary, he remained determined, his eyes wide as he declared, "But I will not admit defeat." As he finished speaking, Lu Fang gripped his sword and charged towards him. Each step he took was so powerful, it seemed like he was pouring all his energy into it. A few seconds later, Lu Fang's body began to transform, and an exact copy of himself appeared. Mirror image clone. Ao Hak was stunned by the sight sweat dripping down his face. An illusion technique that creates a clone. Lu Fang began his attack, leaving his clone behind. "Not bad, kid. You know quite a few tricks, even a clone illusion." Ao Hak parried Lu Fang's attack while thinking to himself, he's not having both clones attack at once. Is the clone just a diversion to distract the enemy? Thinking that was the extent of Lu Fang's power, Ao Hak smirked confidently while holding his sword. Interesting. This is the first time I've seen a fool leave his clone behind and charge in to take the attack himself. His tone became more provocative than ever. "What's wrong? Looks like you're out of energy." But a surprise was in store. It was his clone that had been attacking all along while the real Lu Fang observed from the sidelines. "You've been tricked." In a flash, Lu Fang shot forward like the wind towards the off-guard Ao Hak. Gale speed was it. He flickered in and out of sight, suddenly appearing behind Ao Hak, his saber raised high. As if having a sixth sense, Ao Hak defended well, spinning around to block both strikes at once. Due to the immense force of Lu Fang's blade, a piece of armor on his arm was shattered. Lu Fang wasn't much better off being thrown back by the armor's inertia. But being incredibly strong, he only staggered slightly before steadying himself. A technique that can create a clone with real power. This is the first I've ever heard of it. Elsewhere on a rooftop, a pair of high-heeled boots moved swiftly. It was none other than Tafai investigating Lu Fang's whereabouts. According to Tu Kim's description, Lu Fang probably went in this direction. As she leaped from roof to roof, she couldn't stop thinking. The person who took Lu Fang is most likely the law enforcement captain of the Sun Never Sets Fortress Ao Hak. That guy is rigid and merciless. Could he really be after Lu Fang because of the wild fantasy mercenary group? Suddenly, Tafai glanced behind her, her face filled with bewilderment. How is this possible? I cleaned up so thoroughly. It turned out on the street below, and behind her was a group of people in black cloaks. Why is the law enforcement team heading that way? Whatever I have people stationed there, the team won't dare do anything to Tu Kim. Not wanting to waste time on trivial matters, Tafai channeled her internal energy and leaped into the air. Lu Fang is extremely powerful. It's rare to find a 9th tier expert who can be my aide. I can't let anything happen to him. I have to stop Ao Hak quickly. With a serious expression, she moved forward, praying silently in her heart. Lu Fang, wait for me. Back on the plains, their endless battle had been raging for some time. It seemed Lu Fang was exhausted, his breathing heavier than ever. I don't have much internal energy left. I can't use it carelessly anymore. Ao Hak wasn't in much better shape either, sweat pouring down his face as he gasped for breath. Looks like you're reaching your limit too. I have to admit, if it weren't for this battle chi armor protecting me, I probably would have lost. Regaining his spirit, Ao Hak raised his sharp sword towards Lu Fang and declared loudly, "But now the one who loses is you." Seeing his spirit and attitude, Lu Fang refused to give up, his eyes widening with determination. "I'll bet it all on this final move." He gripped his saber tightly and charged forward, his form as straight as an arrow aimed at a bullseye. And he didn't stop there. Lu Fang's feet left the ground as he moved into the air. Using the last of his internal energy, he soared into the sky several meters away from him. It seemed Ao Hak wasn't the least bit afraid of Lu Fang's attack, even smirking slightly. "Kid, take this." As he finished his words, he raised his sword high and swung it forward with immense force. Fortunately, with his agile body, Lu Fang bent backward in an instant, neatly dodging the dangerous slash. Although he was safe, Lu Fang gritted his teeth, his face filled with worry. "So strong. The range is too wide. Gale speed can only increase my speed." Surrounded by a blue aura, he grew more frantic than ever. "I can't jump out of this range. Is there really no other way?" Lu Fang's eyes flew open as his mind raced for a solution. Is there any other way within Huaxia's internal arts? Unexpectedly, he regained movement in his legs. Lifting them high, he seized control of the fight once more. From above, Lu Fang shot forward, saber in hand. He raised the sharp blade, aiming straight for the stunned Ao Hak below. What? In just a few short seconds, Lu Fang was face to face with him, his slash right next to Ao Hak's blazing armor. A fatal strike 4 times the normal attack power. The moment the saber made contact with the armor, the seemingly light impact created a shocking explosion with smoke and fire filling the sky. A few minutes passed. As the smoke cleared, Ao Hak stood with a mouthful of blood, his armor cracked into pieces. He was now just an ordinary man, without his protective gear, bent over and breathing with difficulty. Having used too much power, Lu Fang had also collapsed to the ground, his heavy breaths turning into mist escaping his lips. Though severely injured, Ao Hak forced himself to stand, his voice demanding, "How did you do it? How could you shatter my battle chi armor?" With a long bleeding gash on his face, Lu Fang explained, "In this world, there is no absolute defense. The best defense is a good offense." The unexpected answer from Lu Fang seemed to trigger an epiphany in Ao Hak, his eyes widening. No absolute defense. The best defense is a good offense. In a flash, he understood Lu Fang's words. Though his mouth was full of blood, he grinned widely. "Well said. Since reaching the 9th tier and mastering the battle chi armor, I haven't practiced any other techniques. No wonder I haven't improved at all after so many years of training. So, that's how it is." Ao Hak wiped the blood from his mouth, his tone grateful. "Thank you for your guidance, little brother." Lu Fang acted nonchalant on the outside. No need to thank me. But when he turned his back, his expression was one of disbelief. Are you kidding me? I just said one sentence and you had an epiphany. You could probably become a Buddha now, brother. Seeing Lu Fong still standing there, Ao Hawk urged him, you should go back and check on your friends. Hearing Ao Hawk mention his friends, Lu Fong grew worried and raised his saber. My friends, what did you do to my friends? Seeing Lu Fong's reaction, Ao Hawk wasn't offended. Instead, he kindly explained, you foolish kid. If my men hadn't saved your friends, they'd probably be a pile of corpses by now. Hearing Ao Hawk's words, Lu Fong's jaw dropped in astonishment. You saved them, Ao Hawk continued. When you pull out weeds, you must get the roots. Yet you made such a basic mistake. Hearing this, Lu Fong remembered something and quickly shouted, you mean, no Kai. As soon as he said the name, Ao Hawk nodded, with a slight approving smile. Looks like you have some memory after all. Slinging the sharp saber over his shoulder, Lu Fong shrugged and continued, did you think I wasn't prepared for that? His unexpected words confused Ao Hawk. What do you mean, not keeping him waiting? Lu Fong declared forcefully. Forget Ngo Kai. Even you wouldn't be able to lay a hand on Kong Tu's group. Do you believe me? But it seemed Ao Hawk was still skeptical. I don't believe you. Seeing Ao Hawk's attitude, Lu Fong didn't want to argue. If you don't believe me, fine. I won't tell you why. With Tu Kim at home, I don't believe anyone can take Kang Tu away. Even though that kid doesn't know how strong he is based on that power alone, I doubt anyone could be his opponent. Seeing that Lu Fong had no intention of elaborating, Ao Hawk shrugged and said, all right, I'll help you cover up the matter with the wild fantasy mercenary group. You can go now. Seeing how easily he was letting him go, Lu Fong was incredibly surprised. What? Weren't you here to capture me? You're just letting me go like that. Ao Hawk simply smiled faintly, his voice mocking. The trash from the wild fantasy mercenary group isn't worth my time. His answer left Lu Fong scratching his head in confusion as he asked again. Then why did you go to all the trouble of fighting me? Without a hint of concealment, his face was full of satisfaction. Ao Hawk confessed. Of course it's because I'm interested in you. Those words from Ao Hawk's mouth made Lu Fong's face darken instantly. You're interested in me. He quickly jumped back, shaking his head frantically. Sorry, I'm not gay. Ao Hawk seemed to realize his mistake and quickly explained. No, I mean I'm interested in your strength. Returning to his normal expression, Ao Hawk lowered his head, slightly praising Lu Fong. I initially tried to provoke you because I wanted you to fight me with your true strength. I didn't expect you to be so strong. You fought me to a standstill without being at a disadvantage. The sun began to beat down harder on the vast green plains. Sitting on the ground, Lu Fong let his guard down and confided in him. That's not enough. The only reason we tied is because I know more techniques. It was just a fluke. Lu Fong couldn't hold back his emotions, clenching his fist. I'm still not strong enough. I need to train more. I have to become stronger so I can kill that city lord. As he finished, a question popped into his head. He turned to Ao Hawk. Did you test my strength because you want my help with something? Though his leg was still injured, Ao Hawk managed to stand and ask, you probably know about humanity's natural enemy, right? Hearing this, Lu Fong hesitantly guessed. You mean the beastmen? As he finished his answer, Ao Hawk's hands clenched into fists and he nodded repeatedly. Yes, Lu Fong, in a few days it will be the battle between humans and the beast tribe. I hope you can represent humanity and fight against the beast tribe. The request was so unexpected that it left Lu Fong stunned for a few seconds, forcing him to repeat the question. The battle between humans and the beast tribe. Images of the vicious beast tribe flooded his mind. The beastmen have many races and a very high reproduction rate. But because the northern lands are barren, they don't have enough food. Ao Hawk's eyes were serious as he continued to explain their motives. Therefore, they always covet the fertile lands of humanity. Every 3 years, humans and the beast tribe hold a battle. If the beast tribe wins, they launch a massive invasion, plundering the human race. After listening intently, Lu Fong asked, so what happens if the human race wins? Ao Hawk immediately replied, if the human race wins, the beast tribe will retreat. They'll stay quiet for 3 years until the next battle. After getting a clear answer, Lu Fong stroked his chin and analyzed, using duels to gauge the beast tribe's military strength. The beast tribe is truly foolish. Suddenly another question popped into Lu Fong's head. Then, after the human race wins, why not take the initiative to attack? Wipe out the beast tribe once and for all. Ao Hawk calmly explained the reason. The northern plains are vast and sparsely populated. The beastmen hide there, making it very difficult for the human army to find them, let alone exterminate them. Lu Fong understood the problem. So the human race is in a really frustrating position. If we lose, we get plundered. If we win, we only get peace. Ao Hawk continued. For the human race, being able to protect that peace is enough. Ao Hawk seemed to recall something that made him clutch his head and grit his teeth. In the great duel, both humans and the beast tribe take it extremely seriously and will send their strongest fighters. Unfortunately, we lost last time. The beast tribe took the opportunity to invade, and humanity suffered great losses. That's why we cannot afford to lose this time. He stood tall, gazing into the distance with furrowed brows. The 4 great academies of humanity will select their elites, but last year, the beastmen sent 2 9th-tier experts. It's very likely they will fight again this time. In the Sun Never Sets Fortress, only you and I are 9th tier. So I hope you can join me in this battle, Brother Lu. If we fight them together, humanity's chances of winning will be much higher. Ao Hawk's words were met only with a sigh and silence from Lu Fong. But finally, after a few seconds of thought, Lu Fong gave his answer. All right, I am human. If I can fight for humanity, I will certainly not refuse. Receiving his agreement, Ao Hawk was overjoyed. He ran over and embraced him tightly. Brother, thank you. Back on another part of the plains, a pair of boots glided over the grass. It was none other than Tu Fai, who had finally arrived near Lu Fong's location after a long journey. Why can't I see Lu Fong or Ao Hawk? Any further ahead is the beastman's plains. She scanned her surroundings tirelessly until she finally caught sight of him. Lu Fong. Tufai didn't hesitate immediately, moving closer, her tone demanding. Lu Fong, are you okay? Tufai's sudden appearance surprised Lu Fong, who asked back. Tufai, why are you here? She didn't answer his question, just frantically looking around for Ao Hak. Where's Ao Hak? You didn't kill him, did you? Lu Fong was stunned. What? Tufai didn't let him explain, putting a hand on her chin as she tried to think of a solution. If you killed Ao Hak, you'll definitely be hunted down. Maybe I can take you away. But where could we go? Not wanting her to worry, Lu Fong gently explained. Tufi Ao Hak is fine. He went to the Beastman's Great Plains to investigate the enemy's situation. A memory flooded back. Earlier, the two of them stood on the plains, and in the distance a plume of black smoke rose into the sky. Brother Lu, something seems unusual over there. I have to go check it out. Can you find your own way back? Seeing his urgency, Lu Fong reassured him. Go ahead, Brother Ao Hak. Don't worry about me. Hearing this, the way they addressed each other left Tufai completely dumbfounded. What? Brother Ao Hak, didn't he kidnap you? How did you two end up calling each other brothers? After a long day of fighting, Lu Fong was exhausted and suggested, anyway, let me rest a bit before we talk. Treat me to a meal and I'll tell you everything. She immediately nodded in agreement. Fine. Let's see what kind of story you can spin. That evening, in front of a luxurious, multi-story building, Tufai's home. On the table were steaming, tantalizing dishes. So that's what happened. A fight like that really drains your energy. I'm starving. Tufai rested her cheek on her hand, watching Lu Fong devour his food. So that's how it was. But I never thought you could actually defeat Ao Hak. That's amazing. Chewing on a delicious piece of chicken, Lu Fong analyzed. It can only be considered a victory of wits. If it were based on strength and fighting skills alone, I probably couldn't have beaten Brother Ao Hak. She picked up her wine glass, shrugging off his words and emphasizing, a win is a win. That means you're skilled. But agreeing to join Ao Hak in the great duel like that, wasn't that a bit too hasty? Having just taken a huge bite of chicken, he asked in confusion, hasty, why do you say that? Tufai gently set down her wine glass and sighed. It seems Ao Hak kept a lot of things from you. Her sudden words left Lu Fong bewildered, his eyes wide. Tufai held her wine glass, swirling the orange liquid inside. Did Ao Hak tell you about the Beast Tribe's frenzy? Lu Fong listened and shook his head frantically. No, one of the Beast Tribe members could shatter stone with a single skill. Frenzy is a skill that all Beast Tribe members have. It can increase their attack power by 50% in an instant. This skill makes the Beast Tribe Empire incredibly powerful in combat, but it also has a fatal flaw. When they use this skill, they can reach a state where they completely lose control of themselves. Once activated, the Beastmen will fall into a crazed slaughter until they collapse from exhaustion. In past duels, many Beastmen have used this berserker state to win. In those situations, even if the human combatant won, it was a Pyrrhic victory. But if they lost, they'd be torn to shreds by the mindless Beastmen. Holding a delicious chicken leg, his eyes grew thoughtful. It seems very dangerous. Sitting across from a silent Lu Fong at the dinner table, she began to explain her reasoning in more detail. That's why only the 4 great academies and the Sun Never Sets Fortress send their top masters to participate. The 4 great empires and other powers can't bear to sacrifice the elite experts they've trained. In fact, in recent years, Ao Hak has been the only 9th rank master to participate in the duels. After voicing all her thoughts, Tufai raised her wine glass and made a suggestion. I think you should consider finding Ao Hak tomorrow and refusing this invitation. But it seemed he was resolute in his final decision. No need. I've already agreed, so I can't go back on my word. Besides, I don't believe I can't beat them. Seeing this, she no longer tried to force him, her face flushing. All right. Very brave. Come, let me toast to our human hero first. They both raised their wine glasses, clinking them together loudly. Cheers, cheers. An hour later, empty water jugs and uncorked wine bottles littered the table. Emboldened by the alcohol, Tufai began to share her own story. I wish I were as strong as you. Then those old geezers at the Mercenary Guild headquarters wouldn't always bring up the fact that I'm a woman. She spoke with dissatisfaction, resting her chin on her hand and looking up. I wouldn't be in this situation either. The conversation between Tufai and him echoed throughout the building. His tone was now full of spiritual comfort. A woman, so what if you're a woman? Aren't there many places where men have to cherish women like princesses? Understanding Lu Fong's good intentions, she just shrugged and smiled wearily. Princess? What princess? We are both descendants of the mercenary king Tahan. The old men at the Mercenary Guild think a woman is unworthy of being the heir. Tufai lowered her head, her eyes sad as she recalled the arduous training of her past. I was born into the glorious legacy of my ancestors, raised amid swords and battle chi. From a young age, my father was very strict with me, hoping I could take over his position as the Mercenary Guild's president. But in our family, I'm not the only one eligible to inherit the guild. I also have 2 male cousins. Because they are men, they receive more support than I do. In order not to be surpassed by them, I never dared to be lazy. But after they recruited a 9th-tier expert to the headquarters, the old men there hastily sent me to the border. Speaking with a voice full of resentment, she couldn't control her emotions and downed her glass of wine in one go. Now they even want to remove my name from the list of heirs. Lu Fong finally understood Tufai's situation. Back then, I refused because I didn't know your circumstances. Without hesitation, he slammed his hands on the table, shot up from his chair and declared, can I still help you now? Even without joining the Knight Mercenary Group, I can still help you. She heard every word he said, her face flushing with happiness. You agree to help me? Without any shyness standing opposite Tufai, he repeated his promise. I am your friend. Let me help you. She quickly stood up as well, pushing her chair back. Tufai's expression had changed. The sadness was gone, replaced by excitement. All right, with your help, I can definitely win back the president's position. Just as she finished speaking, her brow suddenly furrowed and her face turned pale with excruciating pain. Tufai grabbed Lu Fang's shoulder for support as blood poured from her mouth. Her sudden action panicked Lu Fang, who yelled with wide eyes. "You've got to be kidding me. I agree to help you, and you immediately vomit blood." Lu Fang quickly supported Tufai's body as she buckled from exhaustion. This is an after effect of using the crippling disassembly. After drinking a lot of alcohol, my heightened emotions triggered the internal injury. Not wanting to be a burden to him, she reassured him through beads of sweat. "It's nothing. I can endure it." Seeing his friend in pain, Lu Fang was extremely worried. An idea flashed in his mind. Internal injuries. I wonder if Hoa internal energy can soothe her pain. Without delay, Lu Fang acted on his idea, gripping Tufai's hand tightly. Hoa internal energy surged, flowing directly into her body. "I'll just try channeling my internal energy into Tufai's body and see." He carefully watched for any change in Tufai's expression, and asked, "Does that feel any better?" After just a few seconds, her body returned to normal. She spoke in a daze. "What did you do?" "My internal injuries. The pain is gone." Am I imagining this? Seeing that Tufai had recovered, he still holding her hand from across the table was overjoyed. "It really worked. I'm a genius." The way Lu Fang treated her internal injuries made her recall her master's words from the past. "Elder, the ancestral teachings say there is a way to resolve the internal damage caused by the tattered seal." Is that true? The teachings say so, but for all these years no one has ever known what that method is. Perhaps the ancestral teachings were wrong. Tufai couldn't hide her astonishment, her eyes wide with shock. So, what the ancestral teachings said was true. Seeing her strange expression from across the table, he grew concerned and asked loudly, "What did you say was true?" Startled by the question, Tufai jumped up, pulling her hand from Lu Fang's grasp. "It's fine, I'm okay now, thank you." Seeing her leave, he also stood up to check on her. "Are you really okay now?" Tufai walked slowly forward, nodding in response. "Yes, I'm fine. I have something important to tell you." Her serious tone puzzled Lu Fang. "What important matter?" From the table, Tufai picked up a letter with the clear insignia of the Hoa Kim Merchant Guild. "Here, see for yourself." Looking at the letter with the familiar symbol, he was still baffled, not understanding what was happening. It was late at night, and the light from inside her house was so bright it shone through the crack in the door, illuminating a flower pot there. After a moment of searching his memory, Lu Fang recognized this commission. Before he could say anything, she cut in. "Looks familiar, doesn't it?" Without hiding anything, he described the masked figure who had brought him an identical commission. "A mysterious person came to find me in Kangtu before saying that if we became C-rank mercenaries he would give us this high-paying commission. He showed us the symbol back then. It's the exact same one on this letter." The image of the red symbol on the commission, along with the appearance of the masked figures, resurfaced. Tufai spoke up. "This is the symbol of the Hoa Kim Merchant Guild. The commission letter you're holding was sent by them in secret to the Mercenary Guild." She didn't stop there, adding with emphasis, "But the contents of the commission are identical to the one given to you." Lu Fang heard the name and could only scratch his head in confusion. "The Hoa Kim Merchant Guild, what's that?" "Sounds pretty powerful." Knowing he still didn't quite grasp the significance of the symbol, she closed her eyes and requested, "Sit down, I'll explain everything." Tufai began to introduce the powerful organization of the masked men and their financial might. The Hoa Kim Merchant Guild is one of the 3 largest merchant guilds on the continent. It's strictly structured, massive in scale, and incredibly wealthy. The more she spoke, the more confused she herself became, lightly touching her forehead. Extremely puzzled. They have their own transport convoy. Therefore, the commissions they send to the Mercenary Guild are all A rank, sometimes even S rank. But this time it's just a C rank escort mission with such a generous reward. Unlike Tufai, Lu Fang, munching on his food, had a completely different take. Maybe they just have too much money and nowhere to spend it. After all, the world of the rich is hard to understand. She ignored his words, holding her head high and asserting her own viewpoint. "No, it's not that simple. For this commission, the Hoa Kim Merchant Guild also specifically requested 3 more B-rank mercenary groups through the guild. A single C-rank mission that requires a total of 4 mercenary groups. This is highly unusual." Seeing Tufai's tone and attitude, Lu Fang seemed to grasp the seriousness of the issue. "Hearing you say it like that, it does seem a bit strange." Just as he finished his sentence, she continued, "I've already secretly asked those 3 mercenary groups. They also know very little about this commission. The Hoa Kim Merchant Guild is being very secretive. There's definitely something wrong with this job." Finally, after a thorough analysis pointing out the clear danger, Tufai made a request. "To be safe, I hope you won't accept this commission." But all she got was a refusal from Lu Fang, who was sitting at the table. "No, we have to take it." His answer surprised her. "Why?" As if casting aside all his pride, Lu Fang spread his arms wide with a helpless tone. "Because we're poor, we're still in debt to the tavern right now, and I forgot to get the money from Hak Tho earlier." He reached out and took the commission paper. After listening to him, Tufai sympathized a little. "But what I said also makes sense. It's best if the Boythap group doesn't get involved." Seeing Lu Fang's firm decision, she didn't press further, instead leaning forward with her hands on the table to make a proposal. "However, if you insist on taking it, I have a suggestion." Back at the castle outside the gates, horse-drawn carriages were being loaded by a swarm of workers. Lu Fang appeared out of nowhere. He weaved through the dense crowd, constantly shouting, "Make way!" After some effort, Lu Fang finally reached Fan Ban. He immediately handed over the commission paper in his hand. "Uncle Lu Fang from the Shi Niet mercenary group is here to report." Taking the paper and glancing over it, he asked in confusion, "Isn't the leader of the Shi Niet mercenary group Kang Tu? He just bought weapons from me the other day. Why isn't he here?" He and Tufai stood side by side, starting their act as he explained earnestly. "Captain Kang Tu is busy with something, so he could only send me ahead." Glancing at the number of people before him, Van Ban pointed a finger, utterly bewildered. "Don't tell me the Shi Niet mercenary group is just the 2 of you." Lu Fang found his expression amusing, and replied in a deadpan voice, It's about quality, not quantity. The two of us are more than enough. Seeing his resolute attitude, Van Ban relented. Alright then. Since Kung Tu and I are acquaintances, let me give you a piece of advice. Huddled next to the transport horses, he warned them carefully. There are only two of you. When you interact with the other mercenary groups, be careful. Don't go picking fights with them. Their personalities aren't the best. Although Lu Feng's abilities were on another level, he just smiled and nodded to humor him. Thank you for the warning, uncle. We'll be careful. After the agreement and the thorough warning, Van Ban led the two of them forward. Once he was gone, Tafai began to speak, her voice full of pride. So what do you think? Not a bad idea, right? The two of us will represent the Xiniat mercenary group to accept the commission. Even if something happens with our strength, escaping won't be difficult. Hearing this, standing behind her, he voiced his question. Then I could have just come alone. Why did you have to come with me? Tafai, slightly annoyed, glanced back at Lu Feng and replied, You've never accepted a commission before. Of course you need someone like me to guide you. Seeing her enthusiasm, he was very grateful. Alright, I guess I owe you another favor. Listening beside him, Tafai leaned in close, her face next to Lu Feng's, and guaranteed. My favors are very hard to repay, you know. A long while later, the caravan led by Van Ban was heading towards a vast grassland of lush green grass. He sat inside a carriage and began to enter a state of circulating his internal energy. She sat opposite him, watching intently. At this moment, along Lu Feng's spine, from his head down to his waist, were separate spherical acupoints, Mingmen Jinsuo, Lingtai, Shenting Changcheng. After sensing his power was sufficient, he lightly formed a seal with 2 fingers. Aided by his internal energy, the spherical acupoints inside Lu Feng's body moved, following each other in a continuous chain. Tafai sat on the bench, her hand cupping her face, watching his training process with an affectionate gaze. It seemed Lu Feng's internal energy was still insufficient. After just a few seconds, he broke out of his state and opened his eyes, relaxing his hands. Still can't open the blood meridian. Hearing him complain, she pointed a finger and guessed, Is this the internal energy you practice? It's certainly very different from the cultivation methods of the continent. Lu Feng raised his left arm, stretching the joint as he spoke. The technique I cultivate is called Hoha internal energy. Although the method is simple, it is the foundation of all internal arts. His voice echoed across the grasslands as the caravan moved forward. The core of Hoha internal energy is to open the acupoints. Only by opening the 7 major acupoints of the body is it considered mastered. Although I've been trying constantly, I've only managed to open 5 so far. The last 2 remain sealed. Seeing Lu Feng blame himself, Tafai immediately offered words of comfort. Although I don't understand what you're talking about, you're already this powerful with just 5 acupoints open. If you opened all 7, wouldn't you be at the saint rank? He knew she was trying to calm him down, but he still sighed in frustration. It's not that simple. Each time Hoha internal energy opens an acupoint, my strength increases by a level. The further I go, the harder it gets. I'm afraid it will be very difficult for me to open the last 2 within a few years. Tafai didn't want to see Lu Feng so dejected, so she reached out and pinched his cheek hard. Then don't force it. You're already incredibly strong as you are. After hearing her words, he fell silent. His eyes widened as he stared into the distance. The image of Vini flickered in his mind, strengthening his resolve. No, I must become stronger and quickly. Seeing Lu Feng standing motionless, Tafai quickly shook his arm, waiting for a response. Lu Feng, what are you spacing out for? Snapping back to reality, he looked at her, touched his face lightly, and replied with an embarrassed smile. I wasn't paying attention just now, sorry. Where are we? Outside, the sun was shining intensely, casting its rays everywhere. We're about to enter the Beastman Great Plains. Hearing Tafai's announcement, Lu Feng quickly pulled back the curtain on the window to look. Outside, alongside the cargo carriages, other mercenary groups were arriving in droves. Seeing their demeanor and the way they carried themselves made him feel awestruck. As expected of B-rank mercenary groups, they have much more presence than the Xiniat group. Sitting beside him, she nodded firmly in agreement. Of course. After all, these mercenary groups only accept warfare missions. Hearing this, Lu Feng's eyes widened as he repeated. What do you mean they only accept warfare missions? Her expression showed she knew he didn't understand. Tafai tried to control her emotions and explained, it means they're cannon fodder hired by 2 warring countries to sell their lives for money. What else? Hearing this, Lu Feng fell into thought. He touched his chin, thinking carefully. It looks like a normal C-rank escort mission, yet they hired 3 B-rank mercenary groups that specialize in war. This commission is definitely not normal. Without hesitation, he turned to her and asked loudly. Do you know much about these 3 mercenary groups? Once again, a look of exasperation crossed Tafai's face. I am the president of the Mercenary Guild in the Sun Never Sets Fortress. Is there any mercenary group I don't know about? She listed off the captains one by one. The Bloodthirsty Mercenary Group, their captain is an 8th rank Sky Sword Saint. The Death Row Mercenary Group, their captain is a 7th rank Head Taker. Not stopping there, Tufai rested her chin on her hand and continued. The Riot Mercenary Group, their captain is an 8th rank Quartz Knight. His mount has the bloodline of a great dragon, giving it extremely powerful attacks. These 3 are as close as brothers. They even fancy the same girl at the tavern. Lu Feng was shocked by the information she provided. You're kidding me, right? How do you even know that? And so their conversation echoed across the vast grasslands. To need such powerful forces, what exactly does the Hoa Kim Merchant Guild want to escort? I can't figure it out either. I'm also very curious. Suddenly the carriage screeched to a halt, startling the 2 people inside. Van Ban approached from outside, pulling back the curtain to announce representative of the Xiniat mercenary group. Our manager would like to see you. There's something he wishes to discuss. He suppressed his emotions and nodded in agreement. Alright, I'll be right there. Lu Feng and Tufai huddled together, whispering. I'll go see what's going on. They might be about to show their true colors. She was a bit worried, but still let him go. You have to be careful. Guided by the man, Lu Fang entered a tent in the middle of the grasslands. Before him, the 3 captains and a manager were gathered together. Enjoying meat and wine were the captain of the death row mercenary group, Tu Sat, the captain of the bloodthirsty mercenary group, Hu Yet Lang, and the captain of the riot mercenary group, Bao Kuang. As expected of the Hoa Kim Merchant Guild's wine, it's exquisite. You can't get wine this good on the outside. The man sitting among them began to introduce himself. I am Hoa, and the manager for the Hoa Kim Merchant Guild this time. These 3 gentlemen are the other captains the guild has invited. Hoa An saw Lu Fang's arrival and introduced him to the 3 captains. This gentleman is the representative of the Xin Yet mercenary group. As soon as they heard Lu Fang's name, the 3 men beside him shot to their feet, their faces incredibly tense. Lu Fang's expression darkened, but he forced a pleasant smile to greet them. Greetings, everyone. Though his expression was calm, his mind was racing, analyzing the 4 men's attitudes. These guys. They don't have good intentions toward me. Seeing Lu Fang's expression, even Hoa An, sweating profusely, was intimidated by him. Just how strong is this kid? To think he could just ignore the hostile aura of these 3 captains. I don't know where Kang Tu found such an expert. Seeing the atmosphere grow tense, he pretended to cover his mouth and cough a few times. Hoa An began to speak, breaking the tense silence. Gentlemen, there's no need to be so tense. I've invited you all here today to discuss our next route. Hearing this, his face darkened, his eyes flashing with irritation as he spoke. Discuss. The route has already been decided. What is there to discuss? Are you hiding something from us? The unexpected question and attitude from Lu Fang made beads of sweat form on Hoa An's face. Brother Lu, you jest. I've already told everyone all the details related to the mission. I'm not hiding anything. He sat at the table looking at Lu Fang standing opposite him and explained, I brought everyone together to go over the situation. After all, we have 4 mercenary groups. Clarifying things beforehand will make it easier for everyone to work together. I'm very happy you could all make it. Sit, let's talk. Sit down, sit down. Lu Fang observed the situation and listened in silence for a long moment, finally agreeing to sit down at the table, his voice laced with annoyance. Fine, please speak. Seeing that Lu Fang had agreed to negotiate, Hoa An took a scroll from his hand and spread it across the table. In a flash, a detailed map appeared before the 5 of them. Gentlemen, please take a look. This is the route we plan to take this time. He pointed his finger firmly at the large red X marked on the map. When we get here, you must be extremely careful. Hu Yet Lang, holding a half-finished cup of wine, spoke in confusion. Isn't this just a normal road through the Beastman grasslands? Did something happen here, Hoa? Anne chuckled at the question. He slowly began to explain some of the issues that had occurred. There's something you gentlemen don't know. Besides inviting you all, our Hoa Kim Merchant Guild also dispatched our own escort team. But when they reach that point, they will turn back. The situation in the Beastmen Great Plains is complex, with the risk of ambush everywhere. I'm just reminding you all, I mean nothing else by it. Hearing Hoa An's long-winded explanation, Hu Yet Lang grew impatient. You think we need you to waste our breath? When we pass through the Beastman grasslands, we'll naturally be on high alert. Well said. Tu Sat opposite him also agreed with the sentiment about his rambling. Seeing the attitude and behavior of the 3, Lu Fang thought to himself. 3 boars indeed, so confident in their own strength that they completely ignore the suspicious aspects of this commission. Sitting at the banquet table, he voiced his own question. I wonder what we're transporting this time besides the usual goods. To invite so many people, this formation seems a bit excessive. His unexpected question made the man frown, and he answered with annoyance. That is a secret of our merchant guild. I really cannot tell you. The moment he heard the word secret, he immediately raised his objection. A small escort mission. Yet you've hired so many mercenary groups, you even sent your own guards, but you won't tell us what we're escorting. Is that how you do business? Hearing Lu Fang's completely logical analysis, the 3 men exchanged glances, silently agreeing that the kid had a point. Without hesitation, he slammed his hand on the table, shot to his feet, and declared, if that's the case, our Shi Nyat mercenary group can't risk our lives for something so vague. We're pulling out. Seeing he was about to lose Lu Fang, Hoa An slammed the table and stood up, holding up 3 fingers. Wait, if you can complete this commission, our merchant guild will pay triple the reward, divided equally among your 4 mercenary groups. Instantly, at the mention of money, his expression changed, shocking, even Bao Kuang. Well, now we can talk. Do you have any other requests, boss? With money, anything can be negotiated. Seeing that they had finally been bought off by the money, Hoa An wiped a bead of sweat and said, if there are no further objections, then it's settled. The newly increased sum will be sent to you shortly. A while later, the banquet finally ended. Empty wine bottles lay scattered across the map outside. By now, Hu Yet Lang was dead drunk and was being helped out of the tent by his 2 friends, Tu Sat and Bao Kuang. Lu Fang walked behind the 3 of them, constantly thinking about the mission. This mission is full of strange things. If it weren't for the extremely generous reward, I really wouldn't want to take this risk. But since it's just me and Tu Fai, escaping won't be hard. I'll just observe for now. As a matter of courtesy, Hoa An appeared from inside the tent, bowing to bid the 4 farewell. I'm getting old, so please excuse me for not seeing you off. Tu Sat heard his voice and was extremely annoyed. No need, no need. Hu Yet Lang also spoke up irritably, always putting on an act. You rich people are so dull. Only he was polite enough to turn and bid Hoa An farewell. Then I, Lu, will also take my leave here. Seeing how Lu Fang acted, he gritted his teeth in anger. Hey, you rotten kid. Fearing Tu Sat's expression would scare him off, he quickly tugged his arm and reminded him, don't scare him away. Let's talk somewhere else. Following Hu Yet Lang's plan, he turned back and proposed to Lu Fang. Brother Lu, we have a big secret we want to share with you. How about we go somewhere else to talk? Without much thought, he opened his eyes wide and agreed to their request. Sure, no problem. I'd also like to get to know you captains a bit better. And so, following their footsteps, Lu Fang was led far away from the tent, into the grasslands. This spot should be fine. Standing amidst the lush green grass with the wind whistling by, he looked at the three men and asked, I wonder what you gentlemen wanted to talk about. With no one else around, the three of them began to show their true colors, making their demand clear. Although the reward for this commission is generous, splitting the money 3 ways is definitely better than 4. If you know what's good for you, withdraw on your own. We can consider it making a new friend. Otherwise, you'll have to die. Hearing their words, Lu Fang chuckled softly, understanding the situation immediately. So you've formed an alliance and want to kick me out. Huyet Lang, seeing how quickly he caught on, slung his arms over his 2 brothers' shoulders. Of course. The 3 of us are as close as family. If we don't kick you out, who else would we kick out? With the same innocent expression, he scratched his head in confusion. Captain Huyet Lang has a point. It's true that the fewer people splitting the money, the better. Hearing Lu Fang's words, Huyet Lang grinned smugly. So you agree to withdraw? Tu Sat was overjoyed at this. He knows his place. Suddenly, Lu Fang's expression changed, darkening as he lowered his voice. How about we renegotiate? What if you 3 withdraw? His request stunned the 3 captains. The 3 of us withdraw. Huyet Lang was furious, lowering his voice for a final warning. Your name is Lu, right? I gave you a chance and you threw it away. Tu Sat chimed in after him. You're digging your own grave. Hearing the threats from the 3 men, Lu Fang couldn't care less, reaching behind him and quickly drawing Thon Dao. Then let's let our strength do the talking.